Hi people, hope you're doing well. Hope you've had a really good day. There's only 3 people on there at the moment, so I'm just going to give it a little bit for the numbers to go up a little bit, hopefully. Please tap the like and share as much as you can. We're going to be talking about John Harris, a little bit about Moira Hindley and Ian Brady, and I'm going to go back over some of the evidence that I was talking about the other night, because I did a live extremely late at night, so a lot of people might have missed it, so you might want to leave when I start going into the evidence that I was talking about previously, in case you already heard it. So those who don't know me, I was a former police constable in the United Kingdom. From 2000 until 2006, I worked in Kent Police, or Kent County Constabulary, and then I transferred to Dorset Police from 2006 until 2018, when I voluntarily chose to resign, not realising it was going to be related to all of this. In 2022, I started to acquire irrefutable evidence of decades-long international government fraud. There's now all converging on the evidence of the collider technology, the crimes against the children, the cell towers, and linking in with the Vatican and the Church of England. Overwhelming evidence to suggest that they're leading towards a falsified prophecy by laundering all of the money through into the technology and how it relates to the Vatican and things like that. So it's pretty overwhelming, to say the least, what's being uncovered. And obviously 3.5 years ago, I wouldn't have quite believed I would be sitting here saying the things I am, but I've now got the evidence practically proving everything that I'm saying. 100%. We are living under a criminal financial system, which is against our government's own acts and legislation. They've contravened their own legislation, which proves that the governments are now criminals. Okay, not only the governments, but their organisations. So the police, the intelligence agencies, the NHS, and this is worldwide. Okay, certainly in Commonwealth countries and most developed countries, it seems. So obviously, everything has to change. You cannot have governments that are criminals. You cannot have police that are running the world's criminal network and are actually behind all of the world's issues because of the system that they're running in the background. But it's an incredible time, because now we know why we've got most of the world's problems because of this. Okay, because it allows the laundering of money in relation to all of the world problems. A problem, reaction, solution criminal network that is in place, linked to the taxation system. You see, this is why this is why it's so important. It's worth trillions. Okay, they create the problems, they then create the solution, and they take more money from the masses and funnel it through into their agenda. And a lot of the money will, of course, be used to be paying for their addictions that they may have, because this is 100%. This is why we've got an international drug problem. 100%. This is how we've got an international child trafficking network and very serious crimes against children. 100%. This is why we've got a collaborative international deception surrounding international conflicts. 100%. This is also why we have international terrorism. Every incident that I've looked at goes to the same companies and therefore the same people. Every single terrorist incident that I've researched so far. Now, there's been a lot of people obviously coming out and appearing to be saying a lot of the right things. A lot of people, it's very clear now, in position as part of this international government fraud. I've now done fairly excessive research on Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. The two people that out of everyone you would think are not part of this deception against all of humanity. 100% they are. 100%. There is too much evidence that I found in relation to both of them that tells us they are positioned as part of the deception against humanity. So this tells you how deep this is, how massive this is. Can you hear me? Yes, if you can hear me. Oh, it's lagging. Yeah, the signal's not great, unfortunately. Well, it's possibly them trying to interfere, but yes, if you can hear me, okay. Use IRL Pro. I don't even know what that is. Microphone's clicking. It's difficult to hear you, Gary. Hold on, it might be that my phone's also on the speaker a bit. I don't know if that helps if I lift my phone up. Does that help at all? Put a yes if you can hear. Sound is bad. Okay, it's improved. Yes, it's better. Okay, so most people are saying it's a little bit better. So I lifted my phone up a little bit. So, oh, a lot better. Good. Okay. I wonder how I can position my phone without it being on a... I'll just on the whole phone. Okay, so so we have this problem reaction solution system that is in place, but for whatever reason, they have left a trail of evidence there for the right person to expose it. Now, I suspect this is going to link into the prophecy element in all of this, potentially. They could have forged the documents easier. They could have left it or made it much, much harder for somebody to have identified this. Now, obviously, there could be an element of they have to put it in plain sight to remove their comic law of, that element of they have to tell us what they're doing. Possibly, yeah, that's possibly an element of it. The other consideration is that they have set the evidence there for the right person to expose it when that person comes along. Now, I keep saying I'm the only person in the world that's doing this, but there is other people sending me a lot of evidence that is really assisting me with this as well. Okay, so I won't name them because they're on emails. I don't know if they want to be identified, but there are people that are assisting with some evidence which I'm using within my documents as well. So thank you so much to those incredible people. Anyone that is supplying any information, even if it's a comment on YouTube, and I am looking at all of them. I haven't had a chance to respond to all of them, but I am actually screenshotting quite a few at the moment that are going to become very, very relevant to everything that I'm being established at the moment. So thank you so much to anyone. Even if you don't think it's significant, please could put a comment, because it may be that you just give me one little bit of information that will literally be a dot that has joined something else that I'm finding. So I just have a quick look at the comments here. Do I support Keir Starmer? Absolutely not. He's 100% part of this. I don't support any of them. They're all collaboratively working on this, everybody. Okay, there is no democracy. It's all about this fraud. 100%. Absolutely certain. They're all working together on this. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind. So what I'm going to do, I'll just actually on Keir Starmer, whilst you mention him, I had a video pop up on my TikTok of Keir Starmer in the audience for Kilroy. And the caption said, "Is this Keir Starmer?" Well, I did a bit of research, and it was Keir Starmer. But what's interesting is, and I didn't know this, and forgive me if you did, that Keir Starmer used to work for the National Council for Civil Liberties. Now, he went on that show, and he said it was working for the National Council for Civil Liberties in, I think it was 1981 or something like that. Well, this is the year when the National Council for Civil Liberties was affiliated to the Paedophile Information Exchange. So that will now make absolute sense with everything that's going on at the moment and all of the evidence that I'm acquiring that Keir Starmer has this connection to the Paedophile Information Exchange via the National Council for Civil Liberties that he works for. Anyway, I'm going to come to the questions a little bit later. Let me just get the evidence out in relation to, I'm going to start with John Harris, because a lot of people obviously watched John Harris. If you don't know who he is, he was basically talking a lot about how you become sovereign away from governments, talking about corruption. Critically, he also mentioned Companies House a lot. But what he didn't do was talk about the forgery within the Companies House registration system. Now, he seems like a very intelligent man. If you know that much about the Companies House registration system and you looked at it like he would have, you know about the forgery. Okay, so I'm going to show you some evidence that I've done that makes me now suspect that he was part of the deception, that he was positioned as part of the deception against us all. But let me just go back a little bit further than that. So last year, I had a conversation, and this is relevant to John Harris. I had a conversation for about an hour and a half with Brian Harvey, who was the lead singer of E17. Now, I suspect he was told, or it's divine, to give me certain information. And he told me lots of incredible information. And this is where a lot of my more recent research has been coming from, some of the stuff that he started telling me about. And that included, he started talking about Millie Dowler, and 100% linked into this international government fraud, phone hacking scandal that links in with Millie Dowler and the death of Daniel Morgan. Daniel Morgan was a private investigator that was axed to death, supposedly, in 1987 in a car park, and it was a huge case, and it links into information where he was supposedly trying to expose corruption within police. So I've researched that, and that is, again, 100% to do with this international government fraud. If he was really murdered. Okay? And that links in with the phone hacking scandal where there was an investigation in 2011, I believe. And where was I going to go with that? So Brian Harvey gave me lots of information, critical information. Some of that critical information included he visited Dover in Kent, where he met Reggie Cray, and in the same building as Reggie Cray was Peter Sutcliffe, the serial killer. Now I've researched Peter Sutcliffe as a result, 100% to do with this international government fraud. Every single angle I come in at, it's linking with the same companies. All right, the serial killer who was named the Yorkshire Ripper. Okay, so it's all being connected to serial killers, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Moira Hindley in a minute and Ian Brady. But what he also said to me was that he went to a party. Now I think it was in the 1990s. I can't remember the exact date, and that party was to do with Prince Andrew. And at that party was Ghislaine Maxwell and Richard Harris. And Richard Harris leant over to him and said, words to the effect of, do you know that Edinburgh is the real Jerusalem? And he also said, I'm wearing a necklace, and showed it to Brian and said the Stone of Destiny, or parts of the Stone of Destiny, are in his necklace. Now, the Stone of Destiny, if you're not aware of it, it's a stone, according to research, that needs to be used. The genuine stone needs to be used for the real coronation of the king and queen. Now, that leads on to a whole other load of evidence that a fake stone was used. The original stone was stolen in about 1951, according to the research, and a fake stone was used for the coronation of the king and queen. So the queen coronated in 1953, which is the same year the MK Ultra program began. And also the year after that, 1954, is when CERN, the company that oversees the Large Hadron Collider, was founded. And this is not going to be a coincidence, everybody. So the big question is, Richard Harris, if he's really against government, he was at this party, according to Brian. If Brian's telling the truth, of course, but the evidence is suggesting that he was, that means he's associated with Ghislaine Maxwell, Richard Harris. That means he's associated potentially with fake royals. And this means he has access to information people should not know. Okay. And now Brian told me that Ghislaine Maxwell was watching that conversation. He looked over, and there was Ghislaine Maxwell watching Richard Harris, telling him this information. So let's look at Richard Harris. Get to the screen, bear with me. Get to the right screenshot. Now, Brian Harvey, he never refused to talk to me any further. And I suspect he was warned to give me no further information. This was despite me providing him with evidence proving that his former manager, Tom Watkins, and Ian Puddick, who he was trying to basically speak out against, were linked straight into some of the main companies, including Balfour Beatty, linking in with the Balfour Declaration, and Egyptian archaeological companies. Now, J.P. Morgan was involved in the archaeology around the Egyptian pyramids, but also Stonehenge. And J.P. Morgan links to the Flemings, and the Flemings are the ones that initiated my removal from Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited after I refused to file forged bank documents. So this is all connected. But anyway, on the 28th, I'm just going to read you this, and then I'll come back to the comments in a minute, so you might want to hold fire on comments. On the 28th of December 2025, I was sent a video of John Harris discussing the company's corruption, but at no time have I heard him mentioning the actual forgery within that system. After some communication regarding the video, I was sent information that Harris was involved in its Illusion conference on the 24th of January 2019, and that it was shown by BBC 5 TV. This is on the lead up to the COVID deception. Right? You have many things happening in 2019, and critical in all of this. April 2019 is when Julian Assange was arrested, supposedly. Every angle of every area of research from every angle of Julian Assange links back into the exact same companies that I'm talking about. And in fact, there's links coming in from his dad, for example, John Shipton, immediately into my wife's father, or his friend, sorry, and then you have a link there to Winbourne Minster, and Winbourne is where the Flemings lived, initiated by removal from Winbourne Manor, and it's also where the creator of the World Wide Web, which is all to do with this, Tim Berners-Lee lived. And Tim Berners-Lee created the World Wide Web for CERN. He actually worked at CERN in 1980. So it's all tying into everything that I'm telling you about. After some, we have this information coming in regarding John. Bear with me. So he was involved in this conference in 2019, and BBC 5 TV was showing it. This is, as I said, on the lead up to the COVID deception. And I found the fact that the BBC, because presumably that's going to be linked to the BBC, it's got BBC in the name. Why would they be airing something like that he's saying if it was true? All right. Or if it was not some sort of distraction or a deception from something. The BBC are massively implicated in all of this. They're linking in to Jimmy Savile, to the Royals, massively linked into it. It's obvious. So that's a big question straight away on that side of things. On searching BBC 5 TV, its YouTube channel appears to be showing videos. I do apologise. I've just had some peanuts on my throat. The YouTube channel appears to be showing videos about Zionism with David Kelly and other interviews with somebody called David Halpin. Now, I need to do a little bit more research around those names. I think that David Kelly I'm aware of, but the other person I'm not. But it's going to be interesting to see what that says, where that leads. There is no trace of BBC 5 TV on Company's House. Excuse me. Another comment claims that Harris was a joiner by trade, which possibly becomes relevant to what I'm going to tell you shortly. A joiner, if you don't know, is basically prior to decorating. So you end up filling the joints on plasterboard, etc., or covering over walls and ceilings. Other information I've received recently is that his father was a chauffeur for the royal family. Now, I haven't been able to verify that or find any information supporting that. But if all of this is true, then he is 100% positioned. And you're going to see when I come through this evidence now why I've come to that conclusion. So where were we? Other contact advised me to search for John Harris Freeman on the land to find more information on John Harris. And on doing so, it appeared, and I found evidence that they were using an acronym for that of obviously FOTL. Now, the police and the Freemasons love their acronyms. If you don't know what an acronym is, it's where you use the first letter from a series of words in a whatever it is you're writing, whether it's a company name or whatever, and you just use those first letters, okay? Now, the police love acronyms. The police are obviously massively implicated in Freemasons. Just whilst I'm thinking of it, remember we said about the Daniel Morgan case of 1987? Well, what's just happened? The Metropolitan Police has come out and said because of the Daniel Morgan inquiry, they are now saying that everybody has to disclose if they are Freemasons or not, or previously Freemasons or part of any other secret hierarchical society. That is not going to be a coincidence, okay, as all of this is coming out. So we have this acronym of FOTL. Peanuts. Search for FOTL Company's House through Google. It's literally put in FOTL Company's House in Google and searching brings up an organisation called the Fruit of the Loom Limited, which obviously that would be FOTL. This was incorporated in 1981, but its name was changed actually to this in 1989, which is the year that the World Wide Web was created for CERN. TMG Group is shown its registered address, and please go and verify this information. You know, you don't have to believe me, you don't have to trust me, you don't have to like me. Go and check the evidence. Everything I'm telling you is 100% true. Okay, and you can verify it all, which is so important. A separate search shows that TMF Group Limited was incorporated as TMF Group Limited previously. It had the same name in 2017 after the Pizzagate scandal became exposed and Donald Trump was positioned. Now, I can tell you 100% Donald Trump is involved in all of this, or they've set all of the evidence up to make it appear as though he is one of the main people involved in this international government fraud and crimes against humanity. The evidence is absolutely overwhelming about Donald Trump's connections. Okay, now you've only got to... I'll give you examples. So this is just a very small... Every single angle of research that I've done links into the crimes against children from Donald Trump. He's been named in Jeffrey Epstein files recently. So I don't really need to say any more, really. But his mother's had a surname of MacLeod, and she lived on Lewis Island in Scotland. Well, the MacLeod name is featuring up very important in all of this. Okay, coming in. When you research that name, it comes up with a company on Lewis, which is straight back into the fraud and links into the research of Donald Trump himself via the research and how it ties the Stargate project, which he announced the day after his 25th, when he was positioned, as the 47th president. And obviously he was positioned as the 45th or 5-9 in 2017, which is what we're talking about here. And then he was positioned again in this year as the 47th president, which is 4-9 equals 11. Well, that's 9/11, everybody. That's the date of the World Trade Center disaster. There is absolutely no coincidence in all of this. Why do you think they have MAGA? Okay, Make America Great Again. Do you know what MAGA also relates to? It relates to one of the highest positions in the Church of Satan. Okay, it's just overwhelming evidence coming in from the research of Donald Trump's golf course that he bought the land for, according to the research I've seen, in 2006, and the golf course actually opened in 2012. Well, that's the same year that CERN discovered the Higgs boson or God particle. It's the same year when the Olympics took place in... so I'm just getting messages coming in on other messages, not text messages. It's the same year that the London Olympics took place, and when they had the water sports element of that, the Olympics in Weymouth, which is in the area where Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive that initiated my removal. It's all connected. 100 years previously, in 1912, you had the Titanic disaster. The Titanic massively connects everything that I'm exposing. Massively. It sailed from Hampshire to New York. The company that was involved in building it actually straight to JP Morgan via the company's house research, straight back into the same international fraud and the companies that I am talking about. So we have this TMF group that was incorporated in 2017 after the Pizzagate scandal became exposed, which started to link, according to the research, the potential skinning of children alive to the American politics via Hillary Clinton and that event, that Pizzagate scandal, where supposedly 9 police officers in New York out of 12 or 13 that viewed that video supposedly were suddenly found dead or alive or committed suicide. Now, that Hillary Clinton links immediately back into all of this via the research on her actual company incorporation document, which is a film company, by the way, which I suspect why all of the film companies link all of this together. I suspect because of all of the evidence is suggesting it's what they're using to actually film the crimes against the children. And straight away on the incorporation document, you have Virgin Management Limited. Going through that, research it, straight away you hit the Virgin Foundation companies and Richard Branson. And who else has been named in the Jeffrey Epstein files or Ghislaine Maxwell files? I can't remember which one. Richard Branson. When you come in from my wife's former employee, that was a dentist in Sherborne, straight away you hit Virgin Foundation companies. My wife's family links to the Freemasons. All three of my family linking with key individuals in all of this, including David Icke, Julian Assange, Donald Trump, the main Freemason lodge, Ghislaine Maxwell, a Knights Templar address that I found coming in with Waterman companies, and my school. They even put my school as a company linking into all of that, literally right by it. And I found that when I was looking at the doing the research for the MK Ultra program. So we have, sorry, I'm getting a bit waylaid here. So This was after the Pizzagate scandal became exposed and Donald Trump was positioned. Also, they positioned a new CEO called Louise Smythe Smith. I think it's Smythe, actually, Smyth, for Companies House. Okay, that's the same surname as the scandal involving John Smythe and what do you call him, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, which is all connected to this. This is why to continue the exposure. The Archbishop of Canterbury resigned the 12th of November 2024. Not long afterwards, you had all of the drones going up because they were hoping that they could deceive everybody and conduct a fake alien invasion. Right? This is why I believe you have 3 by comment, which actually we're going to be mentioning in the research in a minute. Okay. So we have this company, and guess when it dissolved? So we're talking about this TMF group found on this company we've just looked at. It dissolved on the 27th of September 2022. This is 19 days after the Queen's supposed death, and as I am starting to expose the fraud within Exbourne Manor, linking to all of this. Vincent Cheshire connects the company to 105 others, including St Thomas Catholic Trust. So we have a link to the Catholic Church, everybody, which means it's going to be going back to the Vatican, all right? And this company was incorporated in 2015, and James Horsted connects it to 14 companies, including Savile Group PLC. Savile Group. Now, I think they've changed the spelling of Jimmy Savile at some point to try and hide this fact, because when you actually research Jimmy Savile, for example, on Wikipedia, they've got it as one L. Well, I've found loads of Savile companies with 2 L's at key times in all of this fraud, linking into the child trafficking, linking into the Vatican now. So I suspect they deliberately changed that to try and hide the connections being made through the Companies House records. So we have Savile Group PLC that has featured in my previous research, particularly recently. And I think it was either in relation to the serial killers, or it was I think it was coming from Peter Sutcliffe. I'd have to check that. Maria Grazier Hindmarsh. Okay, interesting. Same surname as Kerry. Remember, Kerry turned against me recently. Well, now we have a Hindmarsh link through. I'm not saying she's going to be related, but we have to consider it. And Kerry Hindmarsh had been connected by somebody in CERN. She lives in the Lancashire area and appeared to be very supportive of me, and then suddenly turned on me when I started to get to the deception within Christianity and linking in with the Vatican. Completely turned on me. So we have Maria Grazier Hindmarsh connects this company, St Thomas Catholic Trust, to Don Pepino Limited and to St Peter Catholic Academy Trust, that we'll come to in a minute. Research of Don Pepino suggests it is an alias name for Giuseppe Sarti, linked to the Italian mafia underworld, and other information is supporting a link to the mafia, murders and corruption with public spending money. Giuseppe Sarti also relates to an Italian opera singer. Let me just go to the next screen. Relates to an Italian opera singer, and opera companies are being used to conceal the laundering of money in relation to the false prophecy technology. And it looks as though they're specifically using opera companies to hide or link in with, but under a hidden, trying to sell it as opera, literally singing opera companies, to the opera experiment that took place at CERN, involving CERN and an Italian facility, with the largest underground facility in the world, I believe, obviously in Italy, at the time that the earthquake in Christchurch occurred on the 22nd of February 2011. And there's so much evidence linking into that earthquake now. Christchurch is a very important name in all of this. Christchurch is a name. It's Exbourne Manor, based on Christchurch Road. It's the town that I worked in, Dorset, Christchurch in New Zealand. It's also the name of the school where the Heritage in quite a place, or school, I can't remember. Christchurch is also the name of the church my wife's grandparents went to, and that church is linked almost immediately to Deborah Fleming, who initiated my removal via the Wessex Partnership. So Christchurch is really important in all of this. And when you come in from the research of Ghislaine Maxwell, you very quickly hit a company called Science and Technology Limited or something similar, that was incorporated in 1977, the year that I was born. It was dissolved in 2022 in December, the exact same month when I reported this for the first time to Action Fraud. And within there, you have the Christchurch earthquake appeal. On that incorporation document, Christchurch earthquake appeal, you have Cobbett. And Cobbett, a company linked back into the intelligence agencies and in with the Collider technology. And remember David Icke, if you've heard my evidence, David Icke came out in 1991, said the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis, acting on behalf of the Godhead, and I've now linked him to the intelligence agencies. And that's the year before the Catholic Church became a legal entity in 1992, and also the Companies House records started to become electronic from 1992 as well, which gave them the ability to funnel the money, but ironically gave me the ability to identify the international government fraud via the inconsistencies and discrepancies with that electronic register and the attached documents, which proves everything that is going on along with the supporting evidence. So we have this link to apparently to the mafia and again an opera singer, referring back to St. Peter Catholic Academy that we just mentioned a moment ago. Professor Mark Watson connects the company to 12 companies, including the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers. Now I need to check this, but I'm 95% sure that exact same company links with the research of the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, coming in from Ricky Dearman, who his 2 children alleged that he was the ringleader for a child trafficking, child abuse ring, not just sexual abuse, as if that's not bad enough, but making children take part in decapitating and drinking the blood of babies, okay, within a church and within a school. And if you haven't already watched the interviews of 2 children, both children were saying exactly the same stuff. It was all covered up by the police, because the police are involved in this, okay? So I'm pretty sure that links straight into it, but I need to verify and confirm that. They also link to the Institute of Heraldic and Genealogical Studies, which looks like it's a forged company. Mental Health First Aid England Community Interest Company. The reason I've put that is because there's mental health companies that I'm finding tying in with key parts of this. And of course, this will link in with the MK Ultra program, and them having the ability to potentially target people with directed energy who then don't know what's wrong with them and how it's happening. They then try and get help through the psychological NHS, etc., and mental health help. And of course, they get labelled as having mental health problems. So that's why the directed energy weapons seem to be very important to them, because it's difficult for victims to comprehend what is happening to them. They then try and get the help, and they then use the mental health label to silence those individuals through the taboo and the trauma of mental health. What do you call it? It's gone out of my mind, but diagnosis. So they also connect to various cremation companies. Now, I think that's very relevant. Now, remember, they've centralized pretty much everything now. So, of course, if they control the crematoriums and the undertakers, that gives the ability to get rid of people potentially and hide the evidence in relation to what they've done to those people. So it allows, now I'm sorry to say this, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that bodies are going into the food chain. Certainly, it looks like the children that are being killed going into the food chain, or the leftovers of the poor children. And we have to consider that maybe bodies are not being buried as they should be as well in all of this. And I'm sorry if this is quite traumatic to hear. The same director also links to Kids MBA. And Kids MBA has 4 Business Limited on its incorporation document, which links immediately to the research of the Mayor of New York at the time of its the World Trade Center disaster. Now, this all links back into the Collider technology, because remember what David Icke said about the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis in 1991? Well, that exact same year, they started to build the relativistic heavy ion collider in New York. And scientists came out and said, look, that's going to potentially cause a black hole to appear on Earth. They continue building it anyway. That relativistic heavy ion collider, or RHIC, was initially activated for the first time in 2000. Okay, so we have to consider, was that technology what actually caused the World Trade Center disaster in 2001? We have to consider that with the amount of So I'm now finding all of this. So we have this Kids MBA with Full Business Limited on it. We also have, bear with me. Now, this is a long company name, but it becomes relevant. Okay. If I can find it. They also, the same director, this is all in the same director link to this. The Association of British Members of the Sovereign Military Hospitaller Order of St. John of Jerusalem, of Rhodes, and of Malta. That's the name of the company. It's one of the biggest I've ever seen. Now, this straight away links in with Jerusalem. All right, this is coming in, remember, from the research that I've done on John Harris. Now, this shows a military link. Now, this will tie in then with the infiltration of Rome in 1870. Okay, so Rome was taken over, according to the research, in 1870, and links into an infiltration of the Vatican involving the Freemasons. There was a bishop called Marcel. I'm not even going to try and spell his surname, but he tried to, it seems, oppose the infiltration of Rome at that point. And he died in 1991, according to the research. So that is when David Icke came out and said about the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis. Every single thing that I'm telling you can be verified from the document. So if you want the document, email me on GaryTheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. That's Gary, 1R, TheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. And how I've done it is put the evidential links all the way through the document and explaining it as we go. There's a lot of spelling mistakes, but it proves absolutely everything that I'm telling you. Every single thing that I'm telling you. So we have this weapons company or military company. Well, this links in with you had Rome infiltrated in 1870. Also, where, just whilst I'm thinking about it, 1870 is when the oldest German bank called Commerzbank was also originally founded, and that was the first German institution, or certainly banking institution, that had a branch in New York. Okay. Now, 1870 is also when Munich became I can't remember the wording, but it's part of the new Germanic Empire, the German Empire. Now, this is where Donald Trump's grandfather originated, called Arthur Trump. Okay. And so this is all around the time of the infiltration of Rome in 1870. Well, it was the year afterwards that you had the apparent letter written by Albert Pike, a high-level Freemason and occultist, to Mazzini, the head of the Illuminati, setting out a 3 World War deception, tying in with Israel, linking in with the obviously 2 world wars prior to what we're seeing going on now. And that letter was written in 1871, supposedly to bring about the light of Lucifer through suffering and through that deception. Now, this links back into the Vatican again, of course. And that letter was removed, according to the research, from public view from the British Museum Library in 1977, the year that I was born. Now, the British Museum crops up through my research on Companies House, including very quickly to Jeffrey Epstein, very quickly to the blood of the tortured children, coming in from a company called CYM Limited that I managed to, some people sent me, that appears to be a leaked document talking about children's being incarcerated in different concentration camps, if you like, around the world, and then being tortured for their blood, and the cost of the blood is astronomical, according to this document. Well, it had a company on it called CYM Limited. When you research that company called through Companies House Companies House, it links straight back to everything I'm telling you about, back to Exbourne Manor. Far too quickly to be a coincidence. This explains why when I then did a police report in relation to that evidence that I've just told you about through the Companies House record, showing that evidential chain of links, I did a police report, publicised that police report. This explains why within 48 hours, it was more like 24 hours, there was a large fire at a location in Hampshire at a waste and recycling centre called something, I've forgotten the name of it now, not TJ, might be TJ Waste and Recycling. in Hampshire. This is obviously the same county where Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive. Massive fire. I then TJ Waste and Recycling Centre, I'm pretty sure. I then researched that company, TJ Waste and Recycling Centre, and it linked to David Icke and a link to the intelligence agencies, which linked back into the royal family, and pretty much everything I'm exposing. Around David Icke, there was loads of drug companies, or appeared to be drug companies. There was Paranoid UK, a company. There was Opium UK Limited. So I did a second police report in relation to that second lot of evidence, where that fire was located. That exact same day, my whole YouTube channel was removed. And I have never received a response from the police for pretty much any of my 40 or so reference police reports. And those two received no response whatsoever. So ignore all of the comments, everybody. They're all compromised. Just ignore it. Referring back to, so we had this military company. I've already found links to the De Reyers, and the De Reyers had 3 properties in Exmoor Manor. Okay, and according to my research on the bank accounts for our company, there had been no payments by those families at all into the company from 2015 until 2022. But Sam De Reyer was also overseeing the economic crime unit at Dorset Police when I'm police reports. She then got moved to Hampshire and Isle of Wight. Now, the De Reyer surname links into the Vatican again, and I've recently found it at a key time linking in with Prince Andrew as well. There's only 2 times I've seen this particular De Reyer company on an incorporation document. It's linked into the Vatican, which I found by the death of the research. If she really died, 100% because of this. If you're not aware, she was shot in 1999, walking up to her home address where she was going to go collect a document that was sent to her by her agent. The research surrounding everyone in her life that I've researched links straight into the same international government fraud and back into the Saturnalia United Kingdom, and all of the same things that I'm talking about, back into the Vatican. All of this same connection has been made. So I found the De Reyer company linking initially from the research of Jill Dando's death into the Vatican, where that De Reyer company linked, and then coming in from the research of the serial killers, I stumbled across it again, and that was on a company called Beaver Film Limited. Remember, film companies linking in with the sex trade are a massive part of this, and then escalating into the crimes against children, and it looks like the torture of children and people who may well be even addicted to paying for the torture of children in all of this, and how the blood relates to the children. So that Beavers Limited company was linked straight to the Duke of York Theatre, okay, which is obviously links in with Prince Andrew. And that Beavers Film Limited was actually originally incorporated in 1962, which is the same year as it seems the infiltration of the royal family occurred. Okay, according to Vanessa Emery, claiming to be the real heir to the throne. Well, that would tie in pretty much with the timing of everything else that went on around that time. Okay, it's also the same year, 1962, that the main Siemens company that they're using was incorporated on Companies House in 1962, and it changed its name for the first time ever on the 5th of May 2025 this year, after I had exposed its connections to Jeffrey Epstein. And Siemens was actually originally founded in 1847, which is 3 years after the Companies House record began. Okay, and it's linked to the Nazi regime, which ties into everything. Remember what I said about the Commerce Bank company starting at the same time? Germany links in with the connections to Rome, the infiltration, and it goes right back to the Reformation. If we go back to the 13th century, when the Reformation started occurring, the formation of governments, which means mind control. I've even told you, everybody, in Latin, if you translate govern, it means control. If you translate munt, it means mind. So mind control. So they started forming governments, linking in with the Vatican and the Christianity, actually, obviously, and that was in the 13th century, and a German company called Gutenberg's started to publicize, using new technology at the time, religious documents rapidly, enabling them to disseminate it around the world. This meant that right back then in the 13th century, they started to gain control of all information. Now, information to them is their biggest weapon. If they control all information and how that is disseminated and distributed, then that is their biggest weapon, because they can use that to steer the narrative. They can use that to deceive you, to provide distraction, misinformation, disinformation, and that is very clearly what they have been doing. So you have this German company right back in the Reformation. Now, the English Reformation was in the 16th century, and I've got track topic a little bit here, but it does tie in actually, so we're going to talk about again anyway. Last month you had Charles, or the month before, went to the Vatican, and they claimed for the first time since the 16th century, which is when the Reformation happened, a British member of monarchy will be praying with a pope. So they're giving all this information away into everything that I am exposing. And some of it actually seems as though, as I'm exposing things, they're deliberately giving me potentially or putting information in front of me that I'm then finding, or not in front of me, but enabling me to find information very easily, whether it is an article on the news, or I'm getting something popping up on TikTok, or somebody sends me a little bit of information. It's then linking in back in with everything I'm doing. So anyway, going on topic a little bit here. So you have the Reformation is very, very important in relation to all of this. It's all being unravelled now. So James Robert, going back to this company, this military company, linking with the Catholic connection that we made coming in from John Harris. There's a lot more about John Harris we're going to be talking about. James Robert Pavey connects this company to the Order of Malta Volunteers. Now, I suspect this is going to link with the Knights of Malta. Okay? And I don't know a lot about the Knights of Malta, but I think it links it back into the Knights Templar in all of this. I need to do a bit more research around that. But this John Robert Pavey also links to Irwin Mitchell LLP, which is a solicitors making critical connections to the Royals, the BBC, and the apparent serious mass crimes against children via a company called Field Fisher, as shown elsewhere in my document. And they link many solicitors together via that company. And Field Fisher is the solicitors that has the contract with the BBC. All right, now this all makes sense, doesn't it? This is why you had Jimmy Savile linking him to the BBC in such a big way, linking him with the royal family and everything else that I am connecting together. So the royals actually used Miss Gondoraya, okay, as their and recently Prince William actually used them. Well, Mishcon de Raya connects to Field Fisher. They're all involved in it, everybody. Prince William, Prince Harry, Charles, I think they're all fake royals. Or, in fact, I'm pretty certain that they are fake, and they've been positioned as imposters as part of this agenda against all of humanity. But what people don't realise, and they do need to realise this, okay, according to all of the evidence, you are all going to be victimised by this. Even those of you that are part of the fraud that think, yeah, you're part of a secret society and you're managing to acquire all of this wealth. It looks like they are ultimately, the people that head this are ultimately going to victimize every single person on this planet through the inversion of creation. So that means your children are at risk, whether you've been involved in the money laundering, tax evasion through this criminal network they've got in place, or you've been victimized by becoming an addict, whether it be of pornography, whether it be of drugs, alcohol. You're all going to end up being victimized according to my research. So the only way out of this is you all need to come forward in truth to save yourselves, to save your children, and to save the children that appear to be being victimized in all of this. Now, if you're in the police, the only right thing for you to do now is, if you're not going to resign on the spot now, you need to be arresting your bosses. You need to be arresting them. Chief constables, your superintendents, high-ranking officers are all implicated in this. Not necessarily the crimes against the children knowingly, but they are facilitating it by being involved in the international government fraud linked to the taxation system. This explains why a lot of people... I had one of my colleagues, Guy Briscoe, and I hope he's listening to this, him and his wife, Amy Briscoe, apparently winning holidays. Every year they were just winning holidays on competitions. They blocked me from loads of groups when I started to expose all of this. I was sending all of my evidence to my colleagues, obviously those that I was in contact with. Most of them actually blocked me. Well, I've done a bit of research around Guy Briscoe, and it looks as though he's going to be linking into this international government fraud, which would explain potentially why he was positioned on the Isle of Wight, which was very odd at the time. He wanted a job supposedly on mainland, but he was positioned on the Isle of Wight. Well, this is a very important location in all of this. It's where Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive. It's where the first mobile mast was erected in the world, according to the research in 1898, involving Marconi. And Marconi was involved in the radio stations at the Vatican City. Okay. Now, I suspect what they're doing is they're using the masts as well as the physical harm that they can cause to try and mind control people through the frequencies from the devices and the technology they've got in place. This would explain why you had Jimmy Savile was obviously heavily involved in radio. He was obviously then involved in TV, and it's looking like he's going to be linking in with the Vatican in quite a big way. So anyway, going forward, so we've now got this connection coming in from the Vatican. A search of John Freeman of the Land. Remember, I was told to search for John Freeman of the Land to try and find more evidence on John Harris. Also revealed a YouTube channel called John James Harris Freeman of the Land of England and the People's United Community, using an acronym of TPUC, was also there. So we now have an apparent potential middle name, which I didn't have before, of John Harris. So John James Harris. We also have TPUC, another acronym. So TPUC, a search of that on Companies House, reveals TPU Limited. It was incorporated in October 2022. This was as I was escalating the exposure of the fraud, and the exact same month when Pietro Parolin was involved in a World Interfaith meeting with Jeff Bezos that links with the research of the 3i Atlas comet and Christchurch in Dorset. Right there in a very small bit of research, okay? Pietro Parolin links to the Vatican. And it seems they were considering setting up the final pope for the prophecy of the popes, which says that the end of the world will occur after the final pope. And that goes back to, I can't remember the year that the prophecy of the popes came out, but that basically predicted the line of popes, and then there being one last pope called Roman the Peter. Okay, well, his name is Pietro Parolin, and Pietro is Roman. It means Peter. And there's loads of other connections suggesting they were going to try and line Pietro Parolin up to be the final pope to tie in with the prophecy of the popes. And the researchers have said links into the 3i Atlas by the Galileo Foundation. Tilly Ray Peel is the only director and connects to various pop-up club companies. Now, I only started researching this, but it looks as though this is going to go straight back into everything again. Early inquiries suggest. A search of John James Harris on Companies House reveals one with a date of birth of November 1984, connected to LJH Decorating Limited. Now, remember, I had information earlier that he was a joiner by trade. Now, that would involve linking in with decorating. So now we have this LJH, Decorating Limited. And this was incorporated in 2023. And it dissolved in January 2025 as I continued the exposure. Now, remember, they're faking deaths. I'm almost certain a lot of the deaths aren't going to be real. And I think I touch on some of that a bit later. John, I was told, was suffocated with a bag over his head. Somebody told me. I suspect he didn't even die. And now this company was created afterwards. after when he supposedly died. So this company, it was incorporated in 2023, dissolved in January 2025. The same search revealed another record for a James John Harris, born 1977. Remember, there's been no verification at all. So it's very clear what they're doing is they're using variations of details. They're using slightly different dates of births, creating duplicate records. It's probably not even their real names, most of them. And then they're changing their identities. And this is how they've been getting away with this for so long, as well as the forgery within the register, etc. So this record connects to 4 companies, all with correspondence addresses close to Exbourne Manor in Poole and in Bournemouth in Dorset. Far too quickly for that to be a coincidence. All around and close to Exbourne Manor, where this all started for me, the inquiries back in 2022. The names Sarah Louise Elizabeth and another name of Louise Elizabeth Harris are connected to these companies, almost identical names, but not together. So we have Sarah Louise Elizabeth and we have Louise Elizabeth Harris. A separate search for Louise Elizabeth Harris reveals 2 other entries, both connecting to Reperio Limited in June 2010. This is 5 months before CERN Limited, an actual company called CERN Limited, was created on the Companies House record, and that dissolved in 2024 as I continued to expose all of this and the connections to CERN and the collider technology. And Andrew David Harris, born 1980, is shown in the People record. And this is so important. And the Rowley's Partnership Limited of an address of Meridian Business Park, Leicester, is shown on page 7 of the incorporation document. Do you know who's got the surname of Rowley? That's right, the Chief Constable or the Commissioner of the Police of the Metropolitan Police. Also, who else had the surname of Rowley? The Chief Constable of Lancashire, where Nicola Bulley went missing, who has now resigned since the Nicola Bulley case was exposed. Now, that is 100%. Nicola Bulley, if she really died, 100% because of this. Absolutely 100% certain. This is why you're seeing Peter Fording coming out now and talking a lot about the fact that he's claiming that he had found the body of Nicola, when previously the articles had said that he hadn't. Well, he changed his story after I started exposing the companies in the fraud that he's actually linked to. Exposed it. And it was literally the same day that Swift Incorporations Limited, which was one of those companies, dissolved. Even though it was incorporated in 1985, I exposed it. It dissolved. I think it was November 2023. Suddenly, Peter Fording, who was the diver with the scanning machine searching for Nicola Bulley's death, changed his story that day, or within a day either side, I remember, saying actually he had found her, changing it completely from what he has said. It's 100% to do with this. This is why Peter Lawson, who was the lead investigating officer of Nicola Bulley, was found dead, supposedly an untimely death at the age of 50 in his home address. He linked straight into the collider technology and into the key areas of the fraud that I'm exposing. Now, if Nicola Bulley really did die, I suspect that her husband may have leaked some information to him that he knew, because he worked for BAE Systems Limited, which is the largest defence contractor for the United Kingdom, giving them the ability to launder trillions, certainly billions, through that company in fake defence contracts stolen from the masses. They had an argument, didn't they, prior to her going missing along the river in Lancashire. And then since then, and prior to then, they've made reports that many other women with almost identical MO, if you like, modus operandi, have also gone missing along rivers and been found dead. Now, I suspect a lot of those other missing women or dead women were not real to cover the importance of Nicola Bulley's death and the connections made to her. There's a lot of other evidence in relation to that, like I've now linked research to a Christian organisation into those deaths, linking back into everything that I've been exposing again. So anyway, let's get back to this. A separate search for Rowley's Partnership Limited shows... Sorry, I'm just trying to make... I've put a mistake here. A separate search for Rowley's Partnership Limited. Sure, I've missed a bit. I need to add a bit there. The Rowley's Partnership... a separate search, sorry, shows that the Rowley's Partnership Limited, LTD, so one of them on the incorporation documents, the full word of Limited, Lincoln with Paris. This one is exactly the same other than it's LTD. But it has the same address, all right? So we can confirm it's going to be connected. And it was incorporated as Rowley Group Limited on the 23rd of February 2007, before its name was changed on the 3rd of April 2007, not long afterwards at all. This is a month to the day before Madeleine McCann went missing. All right, now, I've done a whole load of evidence in relation to Madeleine McCann. 100% to do with everything I'm exposing. 100% certain. Absolutely obvious from the research now. Okay, Madeleine McCann's disappearance is to do with what I'm exposing. Anyone that is not talking about the Companies House fraud, I suspect, is positioned as a deception, as a distraction from the truth in relation to this. So we have this Rowley's company. Where do we go with that? Rowley's Group Limited on Twitter, a month to the day before Madeleine McCann's disappearance. It connects immediately to the fraud. This is the Rowley's company that we're talking about here, by Barbara Cahan and Temple Secretaries of 788, 790 Finchley Road, and A1 Company Services on its incorporation document. These details had already been mentioned by Gordon Bowden, who was an ex-military who was coming out and identifying the non-verification house fraud. I have evidence that he was murdered. Now, he was sat in a conference in 2018 in a video, which is, the link is in my document, next to Michelle Young. Michelle Young is the one that told me he was killed. Only after I spoke about him, me seeing her sat next to him, she didn't tell me that, and I've spoken to her several times. There's a whole load of stuff in relation to Michelle Young and her husband Scott Young, looking into the Russians and a supposed death of 13 people now linking into the Russians. Within my document, there was an article from literally, I think it was in either October or November this year. Well, I suspect it's all a deception and that there's a collaborative effort in relation to all of this and the international government fraud tying in with it and how it links in with the Vatican. So we have this separate search for... Hold on, where did we go? Yeah, so Gordon Bowden, sorry. So he started exposing this in 2017-18, I believe, after the Pizzagate scandal, if he's genuine. Now, the meeting that he was at was where he was sat next to Michelle Young. That meeting, that conference group, has been set up by Sasha Stone. And I have information that Sasha Stone is allegedly friends with Ciro Orsini. And Ciro Orsini is linked to the black nobility families of the Vatican. And via the research of Sasha Stone that links into Glastonbury, I've found connections back into the apparent blood of the tortured children in all of this. So these same companies, that the links I'm just telling you about here, were identified by Gordon Bowden. Okay, in terms of the non-verification element of the Companies House fraud, where there was an address, and still is an address in London, 788, 790 Finchley Road, which was an empty address. Okay, so there's no one there, which means, and I know somebody that's been there and sent me a video. It means you can't hand any papers of litigation to these companies that are registered there. And there was over 260,000 companies registered there, according to Gordon Bowden. And this includes people such as David Cameron and Gordon Brown, international mafia members, dictators around the world having companies registered to that address. So this is an element of them avoiding the accountability. Thomas Adam Coopson connects the Rowley's Partnership Limited to 4 companies, including Rowley's Total Business Collection Limited. It was incorporated as John Rowley & Co. Limited in 1991, the same year that David Icke said the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis, etc. its name was changed in February 2001 to Rowley Consulting Limited on the lead up to the related World Trade Center disaster, which is 100%, again, remember I was in the police for 18 years, 100% the World Trade Center disaster is because of this. 100%. Yeah, thanks very much. I am not suicidal. I am not depressed in any way. I'm incredibly motivated and loving life, even with this, even though I'm doing this every day, because I'm so pleased that the truth is now being revealed. Every bit of truth is being now connected, revealed. People are being exposed all over the place. It really is an incredible time to be alive. Incredible time to be alive. So it has this Rowley Consulting Limited that it changed its name in February 2001, and there's so many connections, changes happening around the World Trade Center disaster on the lead up. I remember Larry Silverstein acquired the lease for the World Trade Center on the 24th of July 2001, the only time that building had ever changed hands in its entire history. And of course, the collapse happened in September 2001 on the 11th. Well, the building was started to be built in 1966, which is the year of the foundation of the Church of Satan, and it was completed in its construction in 1973, which is 2 years after the World Economic Forum began, which is all to do with this, and it's also the same year that they started using the SWIFT international transaction system, which is used in this international government fraud. So this company was... Where was it going? Yeah, so I've mentioned that. This name, its previous name, is the exact same name in the research of the chiefs of police of Lancashire and the Metropolitan Police, who, remember, the chief constable at the time, I think it was Simon Rowley, of Lancashire, resigned as a result of the Nicola Bulley case. And Mark Rowley was positioned as the chief constable of the Metropolitan Police. Guess when? In September, I believe it was September, definitely 2022. I'm pretty sure it was September. Well, that is when the Queen supposedly died, and that is when I was escalating my inquiries within the fraud. I suspect the Queen did not die at all. In fact, I'm almost certain she didn't die. So this is exactly the same name in the research. Now, the company dissolved in 2023 as I was escalating the exposure. This is the one we're looking at here. Paul Seymour Bonnet connects Rowley's Total Business Collection Limited to 26 companies, including many religious-related companies, such as Liverpool Cathedral Enterprise Limited, that was incorporated as Shadi Limited, SHAADI, 2 A's, in 1989, which is the same year that the World Wide Web was created for CERN, before its name appears to have been changed for the only time in January 1990, just before the Gulf War ended. Its incorporation document appears to have been tampered with to make the company names on the bottom left-hand corner illegible. William Andrew Myers Holroyd connects this company, Liverpool Cathedral Enterprises Limited, to 20 companies, including Incorporated Council of Law Reporting for England and Wales. Now, I need to check this. I'm 95% sure that links straight to Harriet Harman, where she was a director, which, if she does, it's on my document, because I can't check on the document at the same time I'm doing this at the moment, you see. Then she links to the Paedophile Information Exchange via the National Council for Civil Liberties, and that links back into the World Trade Center disaster. And the connection the governments have removed a company name from a document from a company called Westco Nominees, which links the National Council for Civil Liberties to Larry Silverstein's companies and the World Trade Center disaster, connecting to the Paedophile Information Exchange. Now, it's no coincidence, everybody, that they repealed, the Genocide Act. And when did they repeal that? In other words, they cancelled it out. It doesn't even exist in England and Wales. Do you know when they did it? They did it in England on the 7th of September 2001, a few days before the World Trade Center disaster. Sorry, it might have been, was it the 1st of September? it was definitely a few days before the World Trade Center disaster, and then they repealed it in Scotland a few days after the World Trade Center disaster. So in England before, in Scotland a few days after the World Trade Center disaster. They repealed the Genocide Act. Now, all of you that are saying they're committing genocide in Gaza, they've repealed the act. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. They did it deliberately. Okay, to set up the falsified prophecies. Now, in the Genocide Act, it actually gives one of the last parts of the Genocide Act says it prevents children from being taken during conflicts, etc. Well, of course, that means they can use the children and take the children from these groups under the Genocide Act. They're not, because they've repealed it. It was all deliberate, everybody. Go and check it. They then put it was actually early 2001, in April, I believe, they put Peter Gilmore as the new high priest of the Church of Satan. And when you research the name Peter Gilmore, it's in my document, it links almost immediately to Dodi Al-Fayed, who was in a relationship with Princess Diana around a month before she died in 1997. And within 2 months of her death, the original founder of the Church of Satan also died. It looks as though it's around this time that they infiltrated the Church of Satan to make it look like the falsified prophecies coming up were to do with Satan and Satanism, when actually it looks like it's a hidden group behind it. And just whilst I'm on this point, is obviously, again, if Princess Diana's death was not an accident, it is 100% because of this. Again, absolutely no doubt in my mind whatsoever. The evidence is absolutely overwhelming around Princess Diana. And you also have links there, straight there, when you link the Peter Gilmore connection to Dodi Al-Fayed, it links almost immediately into the Satanic Temple United Kingdom via the research. But also, you have nuclear weapons companies, AWE PLC, Atomic Weapons. I can't remember what the E stands for, but it's atomic weapons. And then you have nuclear companies around it. So that means the name of the high priest of the Church of Satan links to nuclear weapons, links to Dodi Al-Fayed. But also, there's an immediate link there via those companies to Peter Lawson, who was the lead investigating officer for the Nicola Bulley case. So, going back to this, so Helroyd connects this Liverpool Daycare. Sorry, go back to what I'm talking about. Incorporated Council of Law Reporting. We mentioned that. Holroyd, the same director, also connects to Liverpool Daycare Centre Committee that was incorporated in 1982, and it dissolved in September 2012, and it has Begbie's Trainer as its registered address. This makes critical connections to the Collider companies again. Begbie's Trainer is actually on the registered address for Colliders Limited. Go and look at it. Go and type in Colliders Limited Company's House on Google. You'll see Begbie's Trainer on the registered address. When you research Begbie's Trainer, it links to JP Morgan. That means it's straight there into the Flemings. So now you have it on this company that we're just researching here, Begbie's Trainer again. And as I've said, links to JP Morgan there for the Flemings. Key areas of the fraud as shown throughout the document. The Begbie's Trainer does not appear to have been logged on the filing history as it should be, suggesting it's been changed, the registered address changed to that since the company's dissolution, and likely as the fraud is being exposed. Roger Hollins Ardern connects the Liverpool Cathedral Enterprise Limited Company, the one right back at the beginning, to companies including Liverpool Diocesan Board of Finance that was incorporated in 1883, and Margaret Ann Swinson connects this company to 12, including the Anglican Centre in Rome. All right, she also links to Christian Aid, which features throughout the fraud, and churches together in Britain and Ireland, with some of these connecting to previous research and the Vatican links that are already being made. Swinson also connects, which I found interesting, to Luther King companies, very likely referring to Martin Luther King, and I need to do a bit more research around that. Referring back to Arden, the same director, they also connect to the Hindley Community Association, the Hindley Community Association, that was incorporated on 30th of September 1996, and it dissolved in June 2025 as the exposure continued. It was when I saw that I thought, I'm going to research Moira Hindley, which we'll come into now. So the Moors murders were a series of child killings committed supposedly by Ian Brady and Moira Hindley in and around Manchester in England between July 1963 and October 1965. And it's just after the infiltration or apparent infiltration of the royal family in around 1962. 1965 is when the main company in the fraud, Jordan and Sons Limited, was incorporated on Company's House. There were 5 victims: Pauline Reed, John Kilbridge, Keith Bennett, Leslie Ann Downey, and Edward Evans. They were aged between 10 and 17, and at least 4 of them were sexually assaulted. The bodies of 2 of the victims were discovered in 1965 in graves dug on Saddlesworth Moor, and a 3rd grave was discovered there in 1987, more than 20 years after Brady and Hindley's trial. Bennett's body is also thought to be buried there, but despite repeated searches, it remains undiscovered. Brady allegedly died in 2017 after the Pizzagate scandals being exposed, and Hindley in 2002 after the World Trade Center disaster. The trial judge for the case was Justice Fenton Atkinson. A search of Moira Hindley, spelt M-Y-R-A, they've got it as, on Company's House through Google reveals Hindley and Sons Limited that was incorporated in 1995. This is the same year as the Hackler International Advisory Board that links the intelligence agencies to the Russian government, and that is shown on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales incorporation document, and that company links all areas of the fraud together. That Hackler International Advisory Board company has dissolved since I've exposed it. Howard Thomas is in the People record and on the incorporation document, along with Eurolife companies and an address in St John Street, London. This connects the company to major areas of the fraud, the research of the paedophile information exchange via the variation of the address of St John's Road, the World Trade Center disaster, and other alleged serial killer cases. CERN, back into CERN. I can't emphasize how important CERN is in all of this, the collider technology. And also that exact same name links almost immediately to the research of my wife's family. Like many other companies in the fraud, the filing history shows that its registered address was changed soon after registration. In this case, 6 days after registration. So what they've done is they've given an address, thought, right, well, let's just change it straight away, removes the accountability, changing the addresses all of the time, and they've changed it 6 days later on the filing history. Duncan Graham Hindley had been appointed to this company since 1995, as a person of significant control. Bear with me. Since 1995, and was positioned, sorry, I'm just trying to find where I'm flicking between the... And was positioned as a person of significant control on the 18th of April 2017. This is less than a month before Ian Brady supposedly died. And the filing history shows that his details, this director's, were changed on the 20th of March 2025 as the exposure continued. But the changes have been omitted from the document that is attached to that filing history. All right, so it looks as though, a lot of these people very likely haven't died, all right, and they're still involved in this international government fraud. It's very likely, I suspect, that they're not even in prison. It's very likely, well, it's 100% certainty that they will be laundering money through the investigations in relation to these serial killings and crimes against children and murders, etc. Unfortunately, we have to consider very seriously that there's actually a collaboration with those that are supposedly the suspects or defendants and the organisations investigating those supposed cases. That is, unfortunately, I have to consider that that's very possible in all of this because of the amount of evil that's being exposed here. Remember, problem, reaction, solution, and addictions all the way through this, linking in with children, international trafficking, sex crimes, illegal and legal sex trade. Yeah, they'll be watching this. The intelligence agencies will be watching this. But the changes have been omitted from the attached document. In other words, they didn't want people to be able to see what the changes were being made in that name. Hindley, this record for Hindley connects to Hindley and Sons Limited, and it connects Hindley and Sons Limited to 12 companies, including James A.S. Finley companies that both have addresses of Magbarra Road, Moira is the next part of the address. Literally, they've just got the word Moira, but not the normal spelling of Moira. Well, they've got Moira Hindley's name as M-Y-R-A when you research her name on Wikipedia, for example. But Moira is another way of spelling it, and that's how they've got it here, M-O-I-R-A. Now, they love to put, it seems, and they have put a trail of evidence through everything for everything to be proven. And it just needs the right person to identify it. So we've now got this little symbol here of Moira in the address coming in from this Hindley company. Hindley connects to this company. There's two of them. Moira, also the M-O-I-R-A spelling, is also means destiny or fate in Greek, which I found interesting. James A.S. Finley Limited, one of these two companies, was incorporated in 1999, and Dorothy May Kane connects to the company to almost 9,500 companies in the People record, and has recently been connected to the research of other serial killers. Unfortunately, I didn't document it, but I remember seeing it, so I'm desperately trying to find where that connection was made, because I hadn't documented it at the time, but I know 100%. I'm certain that was there, but I just need to prove it through going back and securing that evidence. So that links back into the other serial killers. Bear with me. I know there's a lot of comments. I'm going to come to answering any questions in a bit. A company's house search for Ian Brady reveals the actual name Ian Brady. Says here born 1954 on there, and that's slightly different than the records, of course, but there's been no variation. And they're connected to 3 Mile Garage Limited that was incorporated in 1956, and it has a forged register. The registered address is Leather Matthews Restructuring LLP. The name Leather, remember, skinning of children potentially in all of this. I've already got connections into the worshipful company of skinners that is to do with was to do with fur and the skin trade, who are now linked with educational establishments according to the research, and their motto was all glory be to God, or something very similar in the research. Now, I found that company coming in from, I told you about earlier, the research of the women going missing with a similar modus operandi as Nicola Bulley. Well, I stumbled across that worshipful company of Skinner's company there. Okay, so we have this, the registered address is Leather Matthews Restructuring LLP. A separate search shows that Leather Restructuring LLP was incorporated in 2013, the year after CERN claims to have discovered the God particle, and it dissolved in 2021. Leathers LLP, just the company, Leathers LLP, without the rest of it, is on the incorporation document, and the filing history shows its registered address was changed from Leathers LLP in 2018. After the Pizzagate scandal became exposed, and as Gordon Bowder is exposing the non-verification element of the fraud, Leathers LLP, that exact same company, makes critical, almost immediate connections into the research of the infiltration of the royal family and Vanessa Emery and Aylsham Village. Referring back to the judge for the trial for Moira and Brady, Moira Hindley and Ian Brady, the trial for them took place in 1966, which is the year of the foundation of the Church of Satan. And Fenton Atkinson had been appointed to the Queen's Council. He was the judge. He was appointed to the Queen's Council in 1953, the same year that she was incorporated, I suspect, as an imposter queen. The same year that the MK Ultra program began, mass non-consensual mind control against humanity. And the year afterwards, CERN was founded originally as a company. Also, 1954 is when a company called Slaughter and May was originally incorporated on the Company's House records. That links in with loads of key areas in the research, massively into football organisations. And football organisations are a huge part of this international government fraud, enabling them to launder vast amounts of money through the football companies and then hide it under the footballers' wages. So we have this connection to the infiltration of the royal family as well. The judge, I forgot where I was going there. So he was appointed to the Queen's Council in 1953. He was also the deputy chairman for Hertfordshire Quarter Session, where he was appointed there in 1958, which is the same year that Charles was initiated to become the Prince of Wales. And Charles is a huge element in all of this. He's obviously being controlled. So he was positioned or initiated to become the Prince of Charles in 1958. This is the same year that NASA was founded, one letter short of creating the word Satan. And Charles was then actually made and formally made and positioned as the Prince of Wales in 1969, which is the year that the first moon landing involving NASA supposedly happened. Of course, Wales, where he became the Prince of Wales, is where Company's House was based. And Company's House is who create these criminal entity companies now running the world that are involved in all of this very sinister activity, according to all of the research. There was something else I was going to say about... it's gone out of my head. So this judge, he was a member of Beeching Commissions from 1966 to 1967 that recommended reforms to the court system of assizes and quarter sessions. Don't really know what that means, but leading to just the name of the sessions, and leading to the Crown Court system from 1971. This is the same year that the World Economic Forum was created. Okay, this is no coincidence. So the Crown's court system, a big part of it happened from 1971 as well. Now, within 3 days of me sending my evidence to the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab announced that he was stepping back as the chair. Within that email, about 200 email addresses where I included the FBI, members of NATO, the United Nations, and Klaus Schwab announced that he was stepping back within 3 days. The first time since 1971. He then actually resigned on the exact same day this year that the Pope supposedly died, both 88 years old. No coincidence, everybody. I doubt very much the Pope died. He was a member I've mentioned that. So he was involved also in the appeal trial of the A6 murderer, James Harrity, who was one of the last people to have been executed in the United Kingdom in 1962. The infiltration, same year as the infiltration of the royal family. I suspect that the death penalty was abolished deliberately as part of their plan against humanity and to prevent their execution and ensure that the manipulation of the judicial system continued. So this meant by removing that if this ever got exposed and identified, the death penalty would not relate to them. And that looks like it was instigated at the same time as the apparent infiltration of the royal family. He also oversaw the appeals of the great train robbers that I suspect will have been a collaborative crime involving those that should actually be preventing the crime in the first place. I need to research that. A search for Fenton Atkinson on Company's House reveals, through Google, reveals F. Atkinson Limited that had been incorporated as WB Fusion Technology Limited in 1993 before its name was changed in 1998, leading up to the World Trade Center disaster. It dissolved in 2023 as I exposed or escalated the exposure. Fusion connections are made in my research. The filing history shows that from the 14th of September 2022, when I was exposing this, and not long after the Queen's death, various changes were made, including the cessation of positions and directors. This is 6 days after the Queen's supposed death, and as I'm escalating the research of the fraud. Now, The UKEA, I think it is an organisation linked to the main fusion facility in the United Kingdom, which I think is in Oxfordshire. That company is actually a criminal company that was started with the exact same companies as Exborn Manor Freehold Limited. That means the fusion technology has no accountability and liability because of the forgery behind the criminal system. That means they're playing with this technology, supposedly. I had an interesting message from somebody suggesting that, what was it, some sort of technological nuclear power plants is all a deception. I don't know about that, but certainly we know they're using criminal organisations to front the whole lot. The whole lot. They didn't need to. They've done this deliberately, and this is because it is linking in with the falsified prophecies in all this. Remember, the Companies House records started to be electronic from 1992. I think this Marcello, whatever his name, who was a bishop at the Vatican, was desperately trying to stop the modernization of the Vatican and it being infiltrated by the Freemasons and whoever they were working with. And he died in 1991, which I think triggered a lot of what we're seeing. Remember, that's when David Icke came out and said the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis. That's the same year when they started building the relativistic heavy ion collider. So yeah, huge. Okay, I'm going to come to some questions now, and then what I'm going to do is go over some evidence that I went over the other night. So if you join me on my live at 1 a.m. the other morning, you might not want to carry on listening to this because I'm just going to be repeating a lot of stuff. But it's absolutely critical evidence that I've found linking into CERN and into potential cannibalism of children and a lot of other stuff. So, but let's have a look if there's any questions. Have you got any questions? Put them on there. Skull to bones. Yeah, I've heard about this. Someone suggested they may have done that to me, but there's certain things that have happened and evidence that I've found where that wouldn't have been possible, even with even if it somehow access my mind. You've still got all this evidence that I'm acquiring that people around the world are verifying, and then what they would have had to have done is manipulate time and my environment as well for me to have acquired certain bits of the evidence, because there were certain dreams that I had that lent to further evidence. There were certain times when I was thinking of something and I flipped the next page on my research and found something that I was thinking about, which is, that was a big sign to me to say, wow, okay, this is massive. And it seems to me as though it's I can't see any other explanation other than it's a divine intervention through me to expose all of this at the right time, because we now know what the world's problems are and what they're about and how they've been manipulated and how they are being used to exploit and victimize most of humanity, and therefore we now know exactly how to resolve it, at least on a transitional basis, to prevent this ever happening again. We're at a crossroads within the technology, and we are absolutely at a point where we can bring heaven on earth because of this evidence that is now being acquired, proving everything. So if you've got any questions, please put them there. Flooding the Shire with orcs. I think you should talk to a medical. Goodbye. How do I block you? I have to actually. I'm not even going to bother. Just carry on. All you're doing is actually exposing yourself even more anyway, and you're exposing that I'm right in everything. This is why they had Anthony Roberts coming on. He's probably on here, actually. He put a comment on one of my lives the other day, and Anthony Roberts is the chairman for Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, where all of this investigation started. Now, they're either telling him to do that to make me know I'm on the right track, or they're just exposing themselves by doing it anyway. So whichever way you look at it, it's actually working in my favor, and in any of you that are innocent, it works in your favor every time they're now trying to undermine me, because the evidence is so blatantly obvious and verifiable. It just shows they're panicking. So every time that Anthony Roberts, who was colluding according to the research with Sonia Pol, independent journalist, and somebody called Reynard Wilson, who had an alias name of Colin Suderman and linked straight to CYM Limited on the research, which is the company linked into the blood of the tortured children, then they're just exposing them and exposing themselves in all this. Now, is that deliberate? Do they want me to expose them? Are they wanting me to expose this? There's something that has to be considered in all of this. Any questions, let me know. Please like the live, people, and press bell. Yeah, please keep ticking the likes. Please share this as much as you can. They're trying to suppress, not completely actually, they're not silencing me, but they are suppressing a lot of the evidence. It's quite possible that they've set it up so most people that are seeing my evidence are actually part of the international fraud. Unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do about that. All I can do is just keep trying to put it out there. But the document is absolutely critical. It proves everything. So any of you that have got it, please verify it. And again, my email address, if you haven't already got the document, then my email address is GaryTheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. Gary with one R. TheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. Now, I've got a lot of emails I'm waiting to reply to. But as you can imagine, it is very time consuming putting this evidence together into the document, and then I have to convert it to a PDF. Now, what they're trying to do, it appears they are trying to infiltrate the research straight to the source when I'm doing it. So there's a way I'm trying to get the evidence into this document and stop it being manipulated before it gets out. They're hacking every public document file I have, so there's no point in me doing a public document file link, okay, an actual link. So I need to ensure that I'm actually sending it one-on-one, so I'm doing it via the emails. Now, they got rid of my WhatsApp. They removed my WhatsApp, which has never, I mean, that's never happened. So I think from anyone that I've ever heard of. So again, they've dropped themselves in it, because that tells us that literally I am the truth in all of this. I'm giving you the truth with the evidence and the answer and the way out of this and the way to resolve this forever. So I've now reverted to email because they got rid of my WhatsApp. Exactly, and the only ones, HMRC, DWP, etc., seem to be going for our UK-born and bred citizens, law-abiding ones. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, it's quite blatantly obvious that they are showing us the escalation in their corruption. They're blatantly telling you how corrupt they are, and I'm telling you how corrupt they are. So, you know, and a huge part of me is, okay, so let's just say John Harris has been positioned as part of the deception. Then the big question is, they're all hiding, obviously, the fraud, which is what it appears they didn't want to be coming out. And the big question, I suppose, is, well, what do we do about this? You know, is the big question. And the only answer that I can come to is everyone needs to start arresting. You need to, those of you who are innocent, need to start making citizens arrests. The evidence is blatantly obvious. You cannot allow this to continue. They appear to be continuing. They don't appear to be stopping. So I keep coming back to the only way out is you need to start making citizens arrests. Now, as many of you may have seen, CERN, and I can't remember the other organisation involved, and supposedly you're all going to be getting £8,000 a month for the next 20 years or whatever because of the corruption. Now, if any of you fall for that, shame on you. No amount of money given to you will be enough to resolve this. Anyone that goes along with that and thinks that that makes everything okay, you are part of the problem. All right. And it could well be a trap for you to see if you're going to say, oh, yeah, I'll have money and I'll be happy that the government's done the right thing. OK, it could be a trap for you. OK, because remember, you have religious establishments linking in with this. And a lot of this could be a test to see how humanity deals with it. Now, if there's any chance that there's a slight chance that any of it is in terms of the crimes against being really tortured and the potential that this collider technology is really going to potentially end all of creation, if there's any chance that that is real, which looks like it is, then we must act. We must do something. And accepting money to keep you quiet will make you part of the problem. The only way this needs to end is by all of them, at least all of them resigning, all right? And those that are key in facilitating it facing the right consequences, and a new system in place so that this can never happen again. That is the reward. That is the goal, as well as full verification to ensure that there is accountability and liability for incorporations, which they are still trying to avoid. We must ensure there is no further sexualization of children or reduction in the age of sexual consent. It's clear that that's what they're aiming to do from all of the research that I'm seeing. Okay, links in with the paedophile information exchange, and the MPs that were part of that, or that affiliation, the National Council for Civil Liberties, are still MPs, everybody. They're still MPs. Harriet Harman, still an MP. Interestingly, friends with my wife's cousin, Lynn Proctor, my wife's auntie, Lynn Proctor, and Lynn wanted me, in the early stages of my inquiries, to write through her to Harriet Harman, so it could be doctored. And who else has contacted Harriet Harman or been in contact through Harriet Harman's sister? It was Vanessa Emery, who claims to be the real heir to the throne in the infiltration of the royal family. So Harriet Harman's a massive part of this. And again, they almost wanted me to know that, because one of the emails that I sent, which was to about 650 members of parliament last year or the year before, I had one response to that particular email. And it was from Harriet Harman. Out of everybody it could have been, it was Harriet Harman. But not saying the right thing, just saying, well, I'm not a constituent of hers, so she's sorry, she can't help. Believe us, Precious is saved with us. We ignore them. Right, Gary, you are so switched on, so clever. Why haven't you looked into flat Earth? It uncovers so much. Because at the moment I don't need to. At the moment it doesn't relate to the Company's House records, and obviously most of my evidence is through the Company's House records. Now, maybe I do need to look into that a little bit more, because if, let's just say I somehow have some sort of influence on how this is concluded, one of the first things that I will want to identify is how many people really are there in the world, or whatever it is, whether it's flat or whatever, and what is the world really? We need to determine that to determine the potential threat of humanity on the environment. Because obviously, with all of this deception, it's almost certain that everything else we've been told is a lie. So that means the population, that means probably a lot about the Earth, but I don't know that at the moment. All right, at the moment, I'm focusing on things that I can prove. But one day I may look into it a bit more. At the moment, when I look up, I see a circular or round moon. But I don't really want this conversation to go into the flat Earth theory, because that's not what this is about. This is about international government fraud and the crimes against the children and a potential attack on all of creation. What do you think, Gary, is the role of Switzerland? I am Swiss and want to know. Well, Switzerland's obviously very important for this. Switzerland was originally made a neutral country in, I think it was 1815, I think. And there's no coincidence that the year afterwards, Cater and Allen was founded. That links into the World Trade Center disaster via the Flemings. And obviously in Switzerland, beautiful country. I love Switzerland, but it does link in with the Vatican. Okay, there's massive links in with, for example, Marcel, I'm not going to try and pronounce his surname, but who appears to be a good potential bishop at the Vatican, trying to stop the infiltration or the modernization. He was actually had strong links with Switzerland, and a lot of them do. And it's mountains, I think, are quite important, potentially the Alps there and the tunnel systems within the mountains, because that gives them a potential base to retreat to, doesn't it? In the event of either they're exposed to such an extent that people are going to rip their heads off, which I don't condone. Even those that are keen all of this, because I believe that's not our decision to make in terms of physically harming people. However, there's lots of tunnel systems in Switzerland. Now, it's obviously very important to them. It's where the Bank of International Settlements is. It's where the World Economic Forum have their meetings. It's where the obviously the Large Hadron Collider is based under the border of Switzerland and France. And also you have the United Nations building there, and you have the World Health Organization there. So it's obviously very, very important to them. And I think it's probably because of the history, probably because of the mountains and the tunnel systems, many, many tunnels in Switzerland there, giving them that ability to hide. And I think that's a big part of it. But it's also got connections. My family, which makes sense. My family used to go there a lot when I was a kid, taking me there. And I think there was very likely a connection to my family tying in with Switzerland and potentially in with organisations in Switzerland. Who do you... Yes, rather. I'm actually going to go through some of the evidence on Switzerland. You might want to stay listening to this because I'm going to go through my evidence on Switzerland, or some of the evidence in a minute again, actually. Yes, rather obvious. They are building a new city outside Cairo, a big military installation called the Octagon. That's interesting because Octagon was actually originally in Switzerland, and I've actually come across Octagon companies from a couple of bits of research, and one of them was from the Lucy Letby case, which is again 100% will be to do with this. Lucy Letby was accused of unaliving 7 babies, I believe, in the Royal Chester Hospital. Well, I've researched it coming in from the doctors that initiated the investigation against her, and they linked straight into the international government fraud. So I suspect those babies, if they did die, it was by some other means. And that links into the Octagon company. Also, there you have Moderna, one of the vaccine companies, which I haven't come across a lot, but that links into research of the fraud straight away into it, and a Moderna company that was started before the outbreak of the actual virus. Do you have a website where I can look at this information? No, I don't have a website. The chances are they're just going to infiltrate. So I've just done a document which proves everything. So it's just a case of you getting that document, and within that document you have the links that you can click on within the PDF as you're going through the evidence, and it will prove everything to you that I'm saying. Unless they've... Now, the National Crime Agency removed 11,500 companies in July this year, showing how worried they are about it. They literally just suddenly removed 11,500 companies. So there's a chance they're going to try and remove some of the records, but I've screenshotted practically every bit of evidence that I've got that proves it anyway. So they're in trouble, whichever way you look at this. What is Swiss Octagon Army? Yeah, so now I haven't looked into this enough. There is a guy that does a lot of videos about Octagon linking in with the Swiss, with Switzerland, and tying in with Egyptology, I believe, and the Egyptian pharaohs. I've got a feeling, I suspect part of it may be a deception, because you had a couple of people that were sent in to me who I know are massively part of the deception, tried to convince me that the pharaohs are behind all of this. Well, that tells me if they're saying that, then that's very likely not going to be true, because I found loads of evidence tying into those people. I do not understand all this slang here, but really want answers. What is Blackwater XU based in Swissy? What is Blackwater XU? I don't know, but it's interesting you say Blackwater. I'm presuming that's a company. Blackwater is featured in some of my research, so that's very interesting. But I don't know about the Switzerland connection to that. More Nazara style BS. Nazara is deception, everybody. All right, you cannot allow... That is them moving towards full digital currency control. You cannot allow full digital currency control with this in place. All right, it'll be practically hell on earth. Okay, it'll be their control of humanity. You cannot allow it, everybody. There needs to be a secondary payment system in place. Now this has been identified. Blackwater is the biggest merc army in the world. Interesting. Thank you for that. I need to do some research on that then. Let me just screenshot what you said there. Let's go back to what you said. There we go. Blackwater XI. Oh, why is it not screenshot? Oh yeah, some reason my phone has gone so slow. They keep putting a file on here every time I delete it. It keeps coming on. So they're definitely infiltrating my phone again. They've done it for a long time actually. What is your plan? The plan is you all need to step up to it now. You need to all rise up if you're innocent in this, and you need to start making citizens' arrests of the solicitors, financial advisors, and the accountants first of all. They are running the fraud on the front line. The Freemasons also need to be arrested. You don't need to hold on to them. You don't even need to go into their personal space, but you need to start arresting them. The evidence is absolutely overwhelming. Those organizations are all centralized to this. This is why you have the solicitors were part of the inner temple, okay? And the bar, the temple bar, that was actually a bar, literally a drinking bar at 7 Bell Yard. And the research from that links into Ghislaine Maxwell. And in there, they were selling pies, which were, I think they were claiming they had mutton. Was it mutton? I can't remember. Some sort of meat in those pies. Pie mean, PIE, is an acronym for the Paedophile Information Exchange. Remember, I've got the information suggesting, overwhelming evidence now, really, suggesting that the children's remains are going into. And we're going to talk about the cannibalism in a minute, actually. I'm going to just carry on with the evidence, actually, in a minute. I know there's going to be a lot of questions. But I've linked now McDonald's into this, into the child trafficking, Burger King, fast food outlets, KFC. Now, loads of companies have dissolved, big food companies that supply those locations that I've linked into the fraud. Okay, there's a Cascades Chicken, or I can't remember the full name, but something Cascades, which was supplying KFC, and then suddenly loads of KFC restaurants supposedly closed around the country. But thank you for that. Gary, what will their punishment be? Crimes against humanity. Well, look, I believe in a creator, and I believe there's going to be a spiritual punishment to these people. But we must prevent these people from obviously being any further risk to humanity. So therefore, incarceration has to be considered. I don't personally believe in taking lives, personally. I don't believe in that, because I believe that's down to the creator to do that sort of things. And we get things wrong. People get things wrong. And they have very likely killed many people when execution was real, that were probably killed wrongly. So yeah, I'm still here, still doing what I'm doing. Thanks very much. Thanks for your comments, really appreciate it. Hope you're doing really well. Gotta go. Thanks very much for coming on. Can't read your fish and chips. Thanks very much. William Wallace, BlackRock paying over the odds, but I hear they've lost a load of cash too. Okay, yeah, that massively implicated in this throughout my document. I've also stumbled across Vanguard coming in from the research with Candy Owens. Interestingly, I hadn't actually seen many Vanguard companies, but that has $11 trillion according to the research in assets. It's only second to BlackRock. Yes, BlackRock and Serco, Mears, etc. Yeah, Serco features right away through our research. I'm across Mears a lot. I certainly haven't focused on it. Hope you're okay, Vanessa. Once people exposing NASA fakery didn't get lumped into flat Earth. Do you think Stranger Things may be a soft disclosure about child abuse and the mystery of CERN? I haven't actually seen it enough to be able to comment on that, but I have heard people saying that it is. But I haven't seen it, I'm afraid. It didn't really lose. I use a sextant. The world is round. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if I had to choose based on what I'm seeing, and look, the whole flat thing, people are targeting me, and those people believe the world is flat, and they've suddenly turned on me. Now that tells me why that potentially means, well, if I'm presenting all of this evidence and you're still turning on me, was you positioned as part of a deception against humanity, and to try and draw people like me in to something that is fake? We have to consider that. That same person was also trying to fit the David Icke agenda, okay, which so was of the fake alien invasion, linking in with Christianity. So was Aisha from God FM, trying to link it in to the Bible. And David Icke is what David Icke basically says, that we are being governed by lizards and shapeshifters. There's too much evidence to suggest that's part of the deception, because that then, and this is through the Company's House record, I've found it, because this then gives them a way out to try and explain all of this, saying it was lizards or aliens. There's too many changes I've seen at convenient times linking in with the fraud to say that's part of their deception. We don't need Keir Starmer and his minions. You don't need any of them. All right, they are all criminals. They're all criminal. Any of them that are not coming out and exposing this, the government, the governments, the MPs, the councillors, any of them that have not been trying to stop this need to be removed, and they need to be dealt with. Have you looked into Castle Craig Addiction Centre? Dr. Peter McCann involved, Madeleine McCann's uncle. No, I haven't actually. Thank you. Let me just screenshot that. Unfortunately, those... Oh, you're having a conversation, sorry. What I'm going to do, because we've got somebody and a lot of discussion around Switzerland, I'm going to go back to my Swiss research now. Now, if you were listening the other night, you might want to go now, because I'm just going to be repeating a lot of the stuff. But feel free to stay, and if you've got any comments later, or questions, I will try and answer them. So let me just get my other device, bear with me. And we'll go over some of the links to Switzerland that I've made, important connections. And this is quite new evidence. I'm just going to find the right screenshot. Okay. Okay, so shall I mention Saturnalia? Yeah, so Saturnalia is, according to the research, it's a Roman celebration that goes from the 19th of December to the 23rd, and they celebrate the god Saturn. Now, this links into, very likely, I haven't actually connected it, but it's very likely going to be linked into the Saturn cult. Okay, the cube of Saturn, where supposedly there's on the part of Saturn, there's a shape that represents a cube. I think it's actually an is it an octagon? I'm not too sure. It might be an octagon. And the evidence is not, now I don't really want to go into this too much, but it's possible that this is a big element of this, the cube of Saturn, and that they've infiltrated the main three Abrahamic faiths, which all have an integrated cube in them. Now, if you fold, for example, the crucifix, a 2D shape of a crucifix, if you put it on a bit of paper, so it'll be 3 squares down and 4 squares down and 3 along, you can fold that into a cube. Also, you've got the cube of Mecca in relation to Islamic faith, and also there's a 3D cube within the star linking into Judaism. So it's possible that that is going to be a big ultimate, if you like, origin of all of this somehow. But let's just talk about Saturnalia for now. So Saturnalia was worshipping the god of Saturn. Now that links into Greek mythology as well via the Greek god. It ties into it, and they merged it together according to the research. Now, when I researched the company Saturnalia on Company's House, it links almost immediately to Mohammed Al-Fayed, okay, which is obviously he's a very big part in all of this. It was his son that was in a relationship with Princess Diana. He started up Harrods companies, or he was linked to Harrods companies, and the research from him, it goes massively into everything. And in fact, there's a company, a name of a person called Mavis June Latter on the incorporation document that links Harrods companies directly to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. So Saturnalia is obviously a very important name. The fact that they've used that name in a company and it connects into the same companies in the fraud and into Mohammed Al-Fayed, it's got to be relevant to them, hasn't it? And there's also, if the Sol Invictus is linked to Rome as well. And there's a suggestion that that involved the date of the 25th of December and potentially sacrifices taking place on the 25th of December. Now, obviously, they've told us that Jesus was significant for the 25th of December. Well, there's lots of evidence to suggest that was a lie and that date has absolutely nothing to do with Christianity, and they've chosen it deliberately to fit in with Saturnalia. Remember, that went from the 19th to the 23rd of December, and then you have the Sol Invictus on the 25th as well. But anyway, as mentioned throughout my document, because there's a reason I mention that as we go forward here, as mentioned throughout the document, Switzerland is an important country in relation to the system in place, with it being where the World Economic Forum and etc., like we spoke about earlier. Kindle Fressenbrunnen, which is Swiss German for child eater fountain, is a painted stone fountain at the Kornhausplatz, which is Granary Place in Switzerland's capital in Bern. It depicts a figure eating babies, and its name was given to it from 1966, which is the year of the foundation of the Church of Satan. Kindli, or Kindli, is a Swiss-German diminutive for the German word kind, meaning child. So a literal translation of that statue, therefore, would be the fountain of the eater of little children. Research suggests the statue was created in 1545 to 1546 by Hans Ging to replace a wooden fountain from the 15th century, the time of the Reformation, which is becoming increasingly important in the research, and the German company Gutenberg's, as I said earlier, rapidly printing religious documents as governments are starting to be formed. There are various theories about the statue's meaning, with one suggesting it represents the god of Saturn. And information, when you research Saturn, says that he ate babies. Other works attributed to Ging, so this same person, include monumental crucifixes, which then suggests a link to Christianity. The foundation of Bern, the capital of Switzerland, began in 1191, and it became the capital of Switzerland in 1848, 4 years after Company's House began, and the year after the Nazi-linked, very important company in this fraud, Siemens, was actually founded. The president of the Swiss Confederation is Karin Keller Sutter, who was appointed on the 1st of January this year as the exposure continued. As shown elsewhere in the document, major changes took place with Switzerland's second largest bank in 2022, which is Credit Suisse, as I was making the early inquiries at Exborn Manor. And an article in 2023 shows that this Keller Sutter had some involvement in the changes being made to Credit Suisse, which is actually supposedly was a big part of the formation, or what fermented what Switzerland is today. Well, as I've said, let me just emphasize that in 2022, when I started making inquiries, suddenly Credit Suisse collapsed one of their main companies. There was articles all about it. And I know it's linked into the international government fraud because it's shown throughout my research, Credit Suisse, the bank. Research shows, remember, her surname is Keller Sutter. Research shows that Keller Group PLC is the world's largest geotechnical specialist contractor. The company was established in the 1950s as the ground engineering division of GKN PLC. In 1960, just before the infiltration of the royal family, it expanded into a standalone piling and ground improvement company. And in 1975, it acquired the German company Johann Keller and took on that name. Research shows that Johann Keller, or Heinrich Keller, was born in 1692 and died in 1975, and he was an 18th century painter from Switzerland, active in the Dutch Republic. He was born in Zurich and was the first pupil of his father, Johann Keller, same name, a sculptor. Now, bearing in mind, we've got this sculpture in Bern in Switzerland of the child being eaten. We now have a sculpture linking in with this research of the name Keller. He moved to The Hague and became the teacher of Dirk van der Aar and Cornelius Cuypers. He is known for his wall decorations, and in 1751 he worked in The Hague on wall decorations for a mansion on the Lang Vuuhoort, now called the Escher Museum. In 1753, he made wall decorations for what is now Het Loo Palace. Now, obviously, The Hague is important. It's where the international European courts are in all of this, which will be linked into the international government fraud and the plans of the falsified prophecies and everything that is being exposed here, or the apparent plans. In 1984, Keller brought Hayward Baker Inc., a US ground engineering business. In 1990, it was subject of a management buyout. Now, remember, this is around the time when big changes are happening, leading into the daylight saying the world is devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis. So in 1990, let me just read that again. It was subject of a management buyout from GKN PLC, supported by Candover. During May 1994, the company was listed on the London Stock Exchange for the first time. This is a year before the Hackler International Advisory Board company that links the intelligence agencies to the Russian government and to the royal family. That has dissolved since I've exposed it, and it showed on page 40 of the incorporation document of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, and that company links practically all areas of the fraud together. 3 months later, it was awarded a 7.5 million contract for a German customer, but it doesn't say what that customer was on this particular article. I suspect it could be Siemens, because Siemens is massively involved in the collider technology, and this company is involved in the testing and movement of soil and earth movements and geological excavations. So I suspect this is tying in with the collider plan, because remember, the relativistic heavy ion collider started to be built in 1991. So in early 1995, Keller Group announced it had recorded a $9.4 million pre-tax profit. In June 2025, Keller announced CEO Michael Speakman would leave in August 2025 for medical reasons and would be succeeded by James Roth, a former CEO logistics from Wincanton. I suspect he resigned because he saw the exposure taking place, and I'm seeing many people resigning with ill health, people supposedly dying. I suspect they're either committing suicide or they're making it appear as though they've died so they can be given new identities and new locations to live as this exposure continues. And, you know, just to make you realize how big this all is. So as I'm continuing the exposure, you had, I can't remember when it was, but it's in my document, the German government supposedly collapse. Then you had, around the day that I leave prison, the American government collapses, according to articles. And then soon after, as I continued the exposure, after I was released from prison, they are Donald Trump's head, people's heads or leaders for the Trump organization are suddenly starting to live on military bases. Now, of course, this suggests they're panicking that they're being fully exposed, and they know that they may be targeted by the innocents in all of this. So Keller announced that this person was resigning. Further research shows an article stating that Eric Keller AG This is really important now. Eric Keller AG, which is part of the Keller Group, made the prototype of the consoles at CERN, the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, or rather the pre-series, and that they had taken, this is just cut from an article, that they had taken the operators' opinions into account in order to optimize the final versions of the consoles. Now this links in with my dreams and my evidence, because, long story, but I'll try and keep it short. Someone mentioned the ninth circle to me, okay, linking in with the crimes against the children and the Vatican and the royal family, where they were involved in hunting parties, where they were literally hunting children and then capturing them, torturing them and murdering them. So this ninth circle link and information, I have an actual article on it that you can go and look at, but they're claiming obviously it's a hoax. So I went to sleep that night and I had a dream that it was either that night or the night after, where I was in a McDonald's restaurant, and I seemed content and happy. There was Ronald McDonald there, and suddenly I had an overwhelming feeling of deceit and deception, and it woke me up. It was about 5 or 6 in the morning, and it woke me up. Now, I don't even normally remember my dreams, and this was very vivid. And for me to be woken up, I mean, that's unheard of, to be honest with you. And Ronald McDonald was in it, a clown. So later that morning, I thought, okay, I'm going to research the ninth circle, where I had found no link to clowns or anything like that. And as soon as I put the ninth circle in, the first article that came up was Art the Clown. And that's because Art the Clown was a character in a movie called The Ninth Circle. And that movie came out in 2018, which is the year that CERN was first activated. Now, that then prompted me to research McDonald's, okay? And I found loads of evidence linking into McDonald's, vast amounts of evidence, and the suggestion that the remains of the children may be going into the food chain. But I then researched Ninth Circle CERN, put that in, and an AI article cropped up saying that technical specialists at CERN call a problem with the technology the Ninth Circle, or hell, and that it regularly can go wrong. Now, I screenshot that and sent it to a couple of people. I then could not find it again at all. Now, this tells us potentially, because we've got this control mechanism, we've got the controls have been built by Keller, linking in with everything that I'm telling you about. And they created that control, the controls for CERN, according to this article. So we have to consider that it's all deliberate, where they are staging an event involving the collider technology. And if it goes wrong and it doesn't happen as they want it to, and everyone's still here, then they can blame it on a technical issue. Now, it looks as though that information may have been positioned for the right person to see that once, to make that link. And it seems as though that person is me, to help support the apparent threat to all of creation with all of this evidence that I'm acquiring moving forward. So they were involved in the consoles at CERN. A company house search for Keller reveals Keller Group PLC that was incorporated in 1989, which is the year that the World Wide Web was created for CERN. It is a criminal company and makes critical connections throughout the fraud and the apparent infiltration of the royal family by Michael John Hope, with an address of 84 Temple Chambers, Temple Avenue, London. That address also makes links to my dreams in the research. That dream that I had ties in with the McDonald's restaurant. I'm trying to remember this, but literally that dream, remember I mentioned Ronald McDonald. Well, I used to be taken to a McDonald's restaurant in Chatham High Street, okay, with when I was a child, for parties, and there was a plastic tree in the middle of it, and we sat on plastic mushroom trees that around it, and we went there for children's parties. Well, that address that I've just told you about links straight to a building that is literally right by that McDonald's restaurant that I used to get taken to in Chatham in Kent. And I found that in the research of the infiltration of the family. That exact same address links to it, and it makes connections. That building makes connections to my family, and I actually went to that building with my father, which is right near this McDonald's restaurant that we used to go to. So it all connects really quickly. That address also connects to Tommy Robinson very, very quickly, and Tommy Robinson also links into key areas of the infiltration of the royal family. David Anthony Burke connects Keller Group PLC to 31 companies, including McCann Drilling Limited. Same surname, Madeleine McCann, and it was incorporated in 1999, the same year as the re-establishment of the Church of Satan. It dissolved on the 13th of May, 2025. This is 8 days after the main Siemens company changed its name for the first time since 1962, the same year as the infiltration of the royal family. Paul McCann and what looks like and is Lorraine McCann and Holdfast Limited in Belfast are shown on its incorporation document. Gerald McCann has a brother called Paul, but I haven't been able to do any more checks to see if it does link to Gerald McCann at this point. Michael O'Connell connects McCann Drilling Limited to 38 companies, including the Forum Club Limited, which caught my eye due to the mention of the Forum linked to the Saturnalia of Rome. In my other research, the company was incorporated as the Forum Club in 1993 before its name was changed to Live Nation Zeus Limited, which makes reference to a Greek god, I believe, in July 2007. And it changed again 15 days later. This is 3 months after Madeleine McCann's disappearance. Now, Madeleine McCann's disappearance is 100%, 100% to do with what I'm exposing. And it changed again 15 days later, 3 months after Madeleine McCann's disappearance, and the month before Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited was incorporated on Companies House, the company that I was removed from as a director after I was refusing to file forged bank documents. It has a registered address of Worship Street. They love to put clues within the addresses. Okay, so you have Worship Street. On another one, key part of this, you have Amen Corner. And they love to put royal connections in all of it, whether it be Queen Street, Royal Prince of Wales Street, or whatever. It dissolved. This company dissolved in 2010, which is the same year that CERN Limited was incorporated on Companies House, and CERN Limited then dissolved in last year, as I was exposing links to CERN. It has Howard Thomas. Remember, we said this name, Howard Thomas, earlier when we were looking at the other research of what's his name? Harris. Richard Harris. Not Richard Harris. What's his name? Name's got out of my head. You know what I'm talking about earlier. So the exact same name. And then that also links back in with CERN and to my wife's family and into key areas of the fraud in other parts of the documents. There are many events, entertainment and festival companies connected from the director of this company, including Isle of Wight Festival, Glastonbury Festivals. Remember, I told you Glastonbury links back into the Vatican via the research of Sacha Stone and the Blood of the Children. We now have Glastonbury companies. And in fact, Glastonbury Festivals Limited, I believe it is, the company that runs those festivals, presumably, is a criminal company started with the exact same companies as Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. Where are we going with this? They also link to Wembley National Stadium that was incorporated in 1997 and is a criminal company, having also been incorporated with the same companies as Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. This obviously makes the football connection back in with all of this, which is a huge an element of this. And remember, David Icke was a professional footballer before he came out and said the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis, and he is linked to the intelligence agencies. Peter Stewart Anderson connects McCann Drilling Limited to 60 companies, including land and marine engineering companies, making important connections to the research of the Titanic, okay, that I've also researched. 100%, everybody, the Titanic is to do with this. 100%. They also link to various Balfour Beatty companies that feature throughout the fraud and connections to the Balfour Declaration and the Rothschilds that fermented Israel as it is today. Referring back to Keller Group PLC, Stephen Anthony Kings connects to 39 companies, including Chemring Group PLC. I've just mentioned that because Chemring, I believe, is likely going to be related to the chemtrails and linking in with the falsified prophecies. Because remember, the scripture says that the weather will also change. So I think they're trying to change the weather to falsify the prophecies of the scripture. They also link directly to Camelot UK Lotteries Limited, which is featured elsewhere. That means the lottery was 100% a part of this criminal deception, and they are taking money from that lottery fund into their agenda and stealing it. Many portal companies are also featured. Portal. Now, this is interesting. They also set up a portal name for the middle name of Justin Welby in the research, Justin Portal Welby. And they also connect to many De La Rue companies, which are the world's main currency producer. This is coming in from the Keller Group PLC. De La Rue, the main currency producer for the world, was taken off the London Stock Exchange for the first time in July this year. First time since 1947, which is the same year that the Doomsday Clock was started. And it was a company called Atlas Holdings that actually acquired that company, supposedly, and Atlas Holdings Limited dissolved the early 2022 as I was making my early inquiries at Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. Atlas Holdings Limited, I was also being led to believe, was linked to missing nuclear weapons from the 1980s, tying in with a potential plan. John Richard Atkinson connects Keller Group PLC to 25 companies, including Kier Group PLC, KIER, where they were appointed into 2015 and resigned at the end of September 2025 as the exposure continued. The company, Kier Group PLC, was incorporated in 1992, the same year that the Catholic Church became a legal entity, and when the company's house register started to become electronic. It has Travers Smith Braithwaite on its incorporation document, and although not yet confirmed, this company likely connects to Keir Starmer and Bates, Wells and Braithwaite's, which links to his organisation immediately, where he was a director for a company called the Death Penalty Project Limited from 2005 until the 5th of April 2020, when he resigned. Well, that company is a criminal entity, criminal fraudulent company with the London Law Agency on its incorporation document. The London Law Agency also uses that address of 84 Temple Chambers. Okay, now on their documents, the documents surrounding the Death Penalty Project Limited, you also have Bates, Wells and Braithwaite's Limited. Well, Bates, Wells and Braithwaite's Limited is also on the incorporation document for the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales that links all areas of my research together. And via the Death Penalty Project Limited, it also links immediately to the Madeleine McCann Company, Madeleine's Fund Leaving No Stone Unturned Limited, which does link to Madeleine McCann and where Gerald McCann is was a director. Jacqueline Francis Holman connects Keller Group PLC to various network rail companies. I think this is going to relate to the infiltration of the royal family. Kevin Patrick Bond connects Keller Group PLC to 40 companies, including Yorkshire Water and AECOM companies, which had featured previously. Lena Ruith Cairn connects Keller Group PLC to 9 companies, including BT Group PLC, which is shown throughout the fraud. Weapons company Babcock International, the Windsor Leadership Trust, which links to the royal family, and critically, the Rolls-Royce companies, making immediate connections to the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce, which then links back in to the royal family, Donald Trump, the main Freemason lodges, evidence suggesting that Prince Harry wore the skin of Madeleine McCann in his shoes at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, or just a few days after his arrest. There's whole other evidence in relation to that in the document. Ronald Thomas McPherson connects Keller Group PLC to 19 companies, including British Chamber of Commerce, which is incorporated in 1875 and having a forged register. It has Independent Insurers Group PLC, they also link to, and critically, Lloyds TSB PLC, connecting to Lloyds Bank and the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Again, so it's all linking in back into this. Richard Thomas Scholes also links to that company to Commerce Bank Securities Limited. Remember, we said Commerce Bank, it was actually founded in 1870, the same time as the infiltration of Rome and the infiltration of the Vatican. And that is the oldest German bank and was the first organization, German, certainly banking organization, that had a branch in New York. So you can see how this is all linking in here. Just on a side note, because it links to Christmas, somebody sent me some evidence of this, or not evidence, but they suggested it might be connected. There was a video that was sent to me on the 25th of December, Christmas Day, regarding the mistreatment of turkeys, regarding industry lead company Kelly Bronze, and how they are promoted by top chefs, including Jamie Oliver. Now, Jamie Oliver is also linked into this international government fraud, and I've also just researched, what's his name? Hell's Kitchen one, Gordon Ramsay, and he links into key areas of this international government fraud as well. Interesting, the Hell's Kitchen connection, because Hell's Kitchen also then links back into the World Trade Center disaster, research now, and into the Church of Satan. But anyway, you have this turkey company, one of the most supposedly prominent and popular for the rich and famous, certainly, and for well-known chefs, called Kelly Bronze. Well, Kelly Bronze Limited was incorporated in 1999, and it is a criminal company. I forgot what's coming now. Criminal company with Michael John Hope and the London Law Agency on its incorporation document, making connections to key areas of the fraud. On the 29th of July 2024, I know that's something else. Now, that London Law Agency, remember, uses 84 Temple Chambers, Temple Road or Temple Way again. So we now have a link back into all of that, the same companies that we're looking at. And don't forget, the London Law Agency that's on this company to do with the turkey producer is also the same company on the Death Penalty Project Limited, linking to Keir Starmer. It's a criminal company. The London Law Agency is a criminal organisation, so wherever it is, it's the illegality continues. Right, I'm going to leave it at that for now. I'm just going to come see if there's any questions. If anyone's got any questions, please put them on there. It's good that there's lots of conversation with Vanessa on here. Lots of tunnel systems in castles, inaccessible except from underground. So do you think there are real lizards underground in some wings? No, I don't. No, I don't. I think the whole lizard thing, I could be wrong, but there's too many things. There's way too much. Let's face it. If David Icke's saying it, it's deception, because he's linked to the intelligence agencies and the international government fraud, and it appears as though there's drug trafficking companies all around him. And he's come out with the falsified prophecies. So anything David Icke says is very likely going to be a lie and a deception. Because remember, this financial system motivates the lies and them desperate for a distraction and misinformation, disinformation, so they can maintain their level of control. OMG, just laber out. Where am I from? I was born in Kent and then moved to Dorset. Templar built around octagon temples. The Templars built around octagon temples. Interesting. Thank you. Hi, Gary. Hi, Anna. I hope you're doing well. Hi, Anna. Thanks for your comment. Pharaohs hiding in Switzerland. Yeah, remember, I was told that the Pharaohs are behind this by somebody that's massively implicated in it. Well, they could be, it could be there's good people that are trying to assist me in this, and they have to make it seem as though they're against me, all right, to protect themselves. I have to consider that. That could be the case, where they're trying to protect themselves, so they're having to sort of turn against me and make it seem that they are, opposed to me. Vanessa says, my investigator asked me if any of my family had been in Bern in Switzerland, as there was a trail saying they had been to Bern, Switzerland. That's interesting. If you can dig out any, you might have already sent it to me, but if you've got any documentation suggesting that, then it might be on the investigator's report that you've sent me. I think I've got that. The governments are preparing to become a new order. Well, I suggest you act now. All right, because what they're going to do is potentially enslave you into this system and target children forever. So You need to do something. I can't do everything. The governments are preparing to become a new order. I've read that. Dr. Susan Cross, Templars. Dr. Sean Harros, research Templars and Swiss Beast. That could be the person that I've seen a lot of videos on. I don't know, potentially. You're very knowledgeable and clever. Thank you for all that you are doing. Look, I'm being guided. I'm 100% sure that I'm being guided by the creator in all of this, and I believe the creator are good. Either that, or they're in my mind, controlling everything around me and controlling time. Otherwise, there's no other explanation to me in all of this. I agree, but something has to give as things have gone way too far. Yeah, well, it's possible that the creator is giving you the choice to do the right, determine the outcome in all of this. Not you personally. Well, all of you, yeah, personally, but certainly all of you collectively, those that are innocent. And I hope that a lot of you on here are innocent. Are you in a tent? Yes, I'm living in a tent. I've been living in a tent since the 1st of October. Because I need to ensure that I keep going. It's the only way that I can try and avoid being unalived. Who do you trust the most? Me. Who do I trust? I don't trust any government organisations, anyone that works for the government. I don't trust any police now, unfortunately, because they're too compromised. I trust everyone that isn't part of the system until I know a reason not to trust them. There are I believe there's far more innocents in the world than there are that are part of this. Certainly the crimes against the children. There's going to be a vast amount of people involved in the laundering of the money. Vast amount. You're talking millions of people are going to be involved in the laundering element. And obviously, because of the fraud, the tax evasion element, you're talking multi-millions of people. Which means everyone else obviously ends up paying more. But it's done through this criminal network. What are your views on digital? We cannot go any further to digital control ID. We must prevent it, everybody. So very much against digital, very much against any technology that separates us from creation, separates us from nature. And we can see that's what they're aiming for. We can see it with the technology. Just look at the games consoles now, the children that are just, and I was one of them when I was younger. You know, I had a point where I was almost addicted to games consoles. Okay. And of course, that gives them the ability to control those people through the screens, through subliminal messages and anything else through that technology. 100% against it. They want us separated from creation. It's all about an inversion of creation, an inversion of moral conscience, and it will end up destroying everything. Artificial intelligence is, I think, pure evil. I think we need to avoid it at every cost. Because what you've got is a group of individuals who have no moral conscience, it seems, who aren't even thinking rationally and clearly, that have created this technology. That means that we'll end up with a world with no moral conscience. In other words, no thought process of what is right and wrong before actions are taken. It will destroy humanity if they don't do it before. BlackRock, Gary. Yeah, BlackRock, 100% part of this. They're all the way through my fraud. Are you anti-Semitic? I'm anti anything that is against moral conscience. Anything. Anybody that goes against what is right in a way, certainly in a way that affects others, and most 100% if it is causing suffering to the most innocent, the children in all of this, who haven't even had a chance to be able to live and choose between right and wrong. And it appears as though they are targeting them. Absolutely. Police badge is on Octagon. Interesting. Okay. I remember when this information came out in about 2002. Moira is a town outside Belfast. Yet they're also putting it within company records, though, where they're not even registered. So they're actually specifically putting it's mockery, isn't it? They're mocking us, putting the evidence, laying the evidence out. Well, now it's all being exposed. So, but it's clearly been there the whole time. Just reading the comments. Any further info regarding Jill Dando, Gary? If you've got my document, no. But there's loads of evidence in relation to Jill Dando. I have actually found links back to Crime Stoppers, the company, via some other research. I can't remember what it is without searching the document, which I can't do at the moment. But I have found links back into Jill Dando from key areas, and it's fairly recently, which means it will either be other serialers. I think it's coming in from Peter Sutcliffe or Fred West. You then come back into Crime Stoppers. And of course, if you have a show like Crime Stoppers, perfect opportunity to manipulate the information. And everyone around Jill Dando, literally every bit of research I've done with those around Jill Dando links into the international government fraud, but not Jill Dando herself, from what I've seen. So that suggests she was trying to uncover something, and that everyone around her had a motive for her to be taken out, basically. Even her brother, unfortunately. You need the judges first. Arrest who you like. If you don't have the judges, you got nothing. Prepare for getting the public opinion against you. Yeah, well, you've got to remember, you've got to think practically and strategically, haven't you? First of all, you don't know where certain individuals are. So how do you arrest them? Now, you could go into the court, but if you try and arrest people in a court, you're then going to be fighting the police. You're going to be fighting all sorts straight away at that situation. And you've also got to think, how are you going to have minimal chaotic effect on society with the arrests? Well, if you focus initially on the accountants, solicitors, financial advisors, then you're having minimal impact on society, but you're also having maximum effect on their system, because you've only got to have 2 or 3 of them, and what you will find is the word will get round to them all, and they will not even want to work for those organisations. Now, if you haven't got financial advisors, solicitors, or accountants, then the whole system will struggle to fail, to be honest with you. And the Freemasons really also, I believe, need to be arrested, because it's very clear that the Freemasons are massively implicated in this. Stephen, it's our face. You can't deny it. Not saying you, but you are. Symbology tells us. What I'm telling you is true, everybody. In 100%, you're living under a criminal financial system, but involving our police, involving the government, involving the military, involving the solicitors, councillors, MPs. That means it can't go on, because it's criminal, because it's against their own legislation. So it proves they're criminals. So it's over. You know, that it's got to end because of that alone. All of the other big stuff I'm talking about, the falsified prophecies, the crimes against children, the cell towers, etc., it's more difficult to discern the absolute certainty in all of this, but we can know 100% there's a linking into the Vatican and to the churches and the religious establishment. So then we've got to consider, okay, if you've got that 100% connection into the Vatican from every bit that I'm coming in from now, and you've got the connect. Remember, all of my evidence converges on the collider technology. So if you put those together, along with the other evidence and the information, it tells you that you very likely got the falsified prophecy agenda in all of this. And now, if you type in rich, now what's the best search for it? If you type in, sorry, I'm getting tired. If you type in donors to CERN December or something like that, you'll see that nearly £1 billion. An article came out saying that nearly £1 billion is being donated to new collider technology under the Future Circular Collider program from private donors. So that tells you they're still working towards the collider technology in all of this. All right, it's part of their agenda. I'm pretty sure, well, it's appearing as though I'm right about everything, but I also have to consider that the attack on creation may be a deception for the right person to expose it at the right time as a potential opportunity for the innocents to determine the outcome and prevent it, if that makes sense. I have to consider that. I'm going to go soon. I know there's probably loads of comments that I haven't answered. Well, we already did surrender. I've skydived, and rainbow above the clouds is a circle. Oasis, stone, roses, or blur. Sorry, and you're probably having conversations with each other. It's tough to wake most people up, but we have to keep going. Absolutely. This evidence is waking so many people up. I'm getting a lot, those that are able to actually get to it, and they're not suppressing it. Again, I urge you, and I will be sending it out soon. I just want to do a little bit more research and add it. Please email me on GaryTheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. That's Gary, one on the truth sets free at gmail.com. Gary, the truth sets us free at gmail.com. Gary, the truth sets us free at gmail.com. And the reason I'm saying it so slowly is the truth will set everybody free. It is so important that we reset to truth. All right. And a system where that truth is maintained through transparency, through the financial side of things. Because the financial criminal network they've got in place motivates the lies. It motivates the deceit. So if you have a system based on transparency that can almost not be corrupted, which I actually think is very easily done, then you maintain truth as the foundation. And we all know that you can't have any relationship if you don't have truth, because you won't have trust. So it will collapse. And that's not just in a personal relationship, that's in a relationship between a victim and a police officer, or a constituent and an MP, or a councillor. The system I'm proposing, at least transitionally, will ensure that it doesn't matter who the leaders are. The system will protect humanity from those leaders. Okay, so any leadership or guidance will be from genuine people who have a moral conscience. Good evening. Hi, Air Force Duck. I hope you're doing okay. Thanks very much. Jesus born around October in Ladybrook books. It mentions it that Christmas was not Jesus' birthday. The Bible also says Jesus died 33 CE. You can work out the birth. It was around October. That's interesting. I've heard it was April time. I've heard it was around 6 to 9 months before Christmas, which again, if it was, another mockery, because remember, we've got the potential sacrifice of children on the Christmas day, going back to this, which means what they have got you doing potentially is celebrating a birth as an inversion. Actually, it's you celebrating the death of babies. That everything has been inverted, remember. That is what is looking like from the research, which is a complete mockery of you. And they will be laughing and thinking how we've all been silly. Let's face it, we've all fallen into this. It's only in the last 3 years that I've identified this. But you imagine if that is an inversion, and there's you all celebrating, being merry, and they're aware of what you're actually celebrating, when knowing full well that most of you would not want anything to do with the crimes against children. It's complete mockery, complete inversion, and I think that's what they've done. And it's looking as though it's tying in with some sort of other celebratory background worship system that they've had, whether it be Saturnalia or whatever. It's just an inversion. Everything's been inverted, everybody. For any questions? What's the SRA? Well, I think they're using it as a double-barreled name. I actually think it's satanic ritual abuse in all of this, but they're also using it for the Solicitors Regulation Authority and other acronyms in organisations. But it's looking as though it's all linking in with the satanic ritual abuse, and they're using it as that a symbol. They're even putting that within a lot of companies. Even there's one I came across, which was a school where they changed the name. When I identified it, there was a link to school. It was a school building premises with SRA in the title. Yeah, the Royals, someone's put F the royals. I don't think they're even real royals. I think they've been positioned. There's a lot of evidence in relation to that. There's evidence, vast amounts of evidence being acquired to suggest that the Cray twins were used as the infiltration in the United Kingdom against the royals, and probably what's happened because they were heavily linked into the, as you know, organised crime, and I'm pretty sure they've got links to the Italian mafia, which means they were probably given the role by the Vatican through the mafia to infiltrate the royals as part of the deception and crimes against humanity and the Collider agenda. Remember, I can't emphasize enough the connection to the Collider technology in all of this. Now, it's going to be for a reason, isn't it? If you've got the Vatican linked to Collider technology in so many different ways, it's connected all the way through my fraud. There's obviously a reason for that. And then you look at, what do the prophecies say? What do the scriptures say? Is that what the Vatican are trying to recreate? And it does appear as though that's the case. How many on here been vaccinated years ago? I had 2 or 3 vaccinations. I know I'm missing so many comments. I do apologise if I'm not reading your comment. My eyes are struggling a little bit, actually, so it's good that you're chatting to each other, though. They got your signal messing up. Don't want this information in humans' minds. Yeah, absolutely. Well, they want some of it, it seems. They're not silencing me completely. Interesting. Or you could have good people working amongst those that are bad, somehow allowing some of it to come through. I'm just listening to you. Thank you for sharing. No worries. Thanks. Yeah, it's not Siemens. It's spelt Siemens, I think. German company, originally founded 1847, 3 years after Company's House. Linked to the regime, they were setting aside $50 million a year in bribery money. They changed their main company name, was incorporated in 1962, the same year as the infiltration of the royal family. They changed it for the only time and first time on the 5th of May 2025 this year. That was after a helicopter crash, which was in April, involving the Siemens CEO from Spain and his 3 children and wife supposedly dying in a helicopter crash in New York. That prompted me to research them further. I found the connection to the Edge Foundation, which was funded by Jeffrey Epstein, straight away into that Siemens company, and loads of other major connections through that company. And then within 2 or 3 weeks, they changed the company name for the first time. A lot of people that we believe are dying, I suspect, are not. Ninth Circle cult, indeed. Yeah, I've also found a link through Ninth Circle companies to my mum's employer. Remember, all 3 of my families are implicated in this. Not everyone within the families. I pray that my sister is innocent and my nephew, and I pray that Gracie is actually innocent in this. But the reactions suggest, unfortunately, that they're not doing the right thing to resolve this. But Richard Timms, who is my brother-in-law, his family links immediately into Exbourne Manor via Stephen Owens, who was the managing agent for Exbourne Manor. He never told me this. I had to find this out. And also links almost directly into the main Freemason company, UGLE, which links to Jimmy Savile. And he also linked very quickly to Ghislaine Maxwell. And I only found that all out after he put a message on a WhatsApp group throwing me under the bus, that I wasn't on that WhatsApp group. But I got information about that and then decided to conduct research on them all, everyone in my family, certainly around those particular people. So now their pictures are all in my documents. So you'll see Richard Timms, if that's even he might have even had a different name previously, but his picture's on there. My mum's picture's in the document. My mum's boyfriend's picture, Gracie's picture, my niece, is in there. You know, this isn't something I did lightly. This is something I had to think very carefully about whether I do. And the truth is that when children are suffering, nobody else is free from exposure. Okay, even my own family, unfortunately. Now that's a hard thing for me to do, but it is the right thing to do, particularly when you have these connections to David Icke is linked to my mum's employee very, very quickly, far too quickly to be a coincidence. So is Julian Assange, and Julian Assange was a doomsday linked to a doomsday cult. I actually think my mum's not my real mum. I actually believe that I'm going to be somehow connected to somebody very potentially very relevant in all of this. And the article for Julian Assange linking into the doomsday cult, if you type in Julian Assange the family, you'll see the article. It talks about swapping babies at birth within hospitals deliberately. So they had whole wards set up, literally, according to this article, where they were swapping babies and falsifying birth certificates, giving them the ability to hide real bloodlines, particularly those that may be good in all of this, and somehow linking back to specific individuals. You look like my science teacher. A lot of people say I look like Gareth Southgate. Gareth Southgate. Or who else? I can't remember who else been told like that. Dream and McDonald's. What? Yeah, hopefully. So I had a dream that I was in a McDonald's restaurant and there was Ronald McDonald, and I was initially very content, and then suddenly I had an overwhelming feeling of deceit. That woke me up. That then led me to research McDonald's, and I found connections to the Red Shoes Society, Ronald McDonald House, massively linking into the international government fraud and the crimes against children, and to the power technology as well. I would say everyone needs my document. Anyone that doesn't believe this, I know it's hard to believe. I know it's so hard to believe a lot of it. But unfortunately, I've got all the evidence. Why do you think they haven't sectioned me? Why do you think I went through the police station and the prison service? Not one mention of what I'm talking about. Not one mention in terms of stop doing it. Or Gary, they didn't even get me to see a psychiatrist. They offered me to see one, but they didn't actually section me. They only offered me, I believe, I actually instigated speaking to a nurse myself because I was being restricted on my rights when I was in prison. You'll see that on the videos that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to talk about that if I haven't already. No, I haven't talked about it yet. I couldn't think of any other way to get the evidence out. So I thought, right, I'm going to speak to a doctor. Because I was being told that my food and water may be being poisoned, I thought, okay, I'll use that to speak to the doctor and say, look, I'm concerned that obviously I could be affected with my health. Now, that enabled me to then say to this nurse, I'm uncovering international government fraud. I'm a former police officer. Bish, bash, bosh. Brilliant, because then you've got two more witnesses hearing me saying it, making it very difficult for them to actually get rid of me. Now, they then suggested that I speak with one of the psychiatric nurses, just as a standard thing. I said, well, can I see the notes that you've made about our meeting first? They refused to show me the notes, all right, which means what they would have 100% be doing to many, many people are falsifying your medical notes, okay, to be making you, if there's a risk of you exposing this, then they send you down the mental health route, okay, so they're falsifying. Now, I've never saw my notes. Never saw my notes. They then asked me if I wanted to see a psychiatric nurse when I was in prison, and I said no, I don't. Not until I've seen the notes that was said in the meeting with the nurse, and they never showed me them. Never showed me them. It's all true, everybody. Here in the northwest of England, I hope you're doing well. I'm going to go in a minute, actually. I'm quite hungry. I'm sorry if there's probably loads of questions I haven't got to. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go scroll right to the bottom and just answer any questions coming in. So if you just type a question, if you think it's really important and I haven't already answered and seen it, and I'll just literally keep my comments at the bottom here and answer any questions coming in. So put any questions that you think is important, if you've got any, on there now. Gary, block G-Man. I'm going in a minute anyway, so it's a bit pointless. Okay, oh, there's G-Man. UK people should be ashamed of speaking. Okay, yeah, I'll just ignore him. Keep warm, Gary. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's getting very, very cold. Do you know Kevin Annex? Yes, I've sent him an email. I've had no response. Unfortunately, I'm not saying he is. He could have been positioned to make you believe that those involved in this have got rid of and they've dealt with them, when actually they haven't, and then allowing the international government fraud to continue. It's possible that's what he's there for. Which conspiracy theorists are misleading us? Anyone that is not talking about the Companies House fraud. I'm sorry to say, it's clearly about this. I would advise that anyone that is not talking about this Companies House fraud, you you are very, very skeptical about anything they're saying. Remember, they have had hundreds of years to plan this and position people all across social media. I can tell you most of the big ones are going to be compromised. Just look at the evidence. I haven't read it out today, actually, but Candice Owens and what's her name? Tucker Carlson, 100% being deceptive. Now, they're probably the two biggest that you would look at and say, well, they're saying a lot of the right things. They seem to be doing the right things. No, they are 100% part of the deception. And next time I do my live, I'll go through the evidence on them so that you can see it. It is going to be in my document. So if you get the document, you can just search Tucker, and you'll be able to bring up that evidence and verify it through the links. How much time before it gets terminal and nothing we can do? I don't know, to be honest with you. As I'm releasing the evidence, things are changing. As I'm releasing the evidence, it may be that the exposure prevents anything from happening in itself. They may be looking at all of this evidence and looking at what I'm doing and thinking, wow, is Gary somebody that if we carry on with this, is going to be some sort of huge consequences spiritually against us if we do carry on what we were planning? It may be they're waiting for me to do something, which it does feel as though that's the case. It feels as though I'm meant to do something, but I can't figure out quite what I'm meant to do to end this. So that is, I don't know if that really answers your question, but I do believe everything's going to be okay, providing the majority of you do the right thing and stand up to this. I think if you don't, then there's a chance that we face the consequences of everything that I'm talking about. Have you looked into missing Georgina Garcella? No, I haven't. Someone has asked me to. I just haven't had time yet. Wish I could get records from England for Fields folks that left. Stobart's Inc. documents false. I don't know. I haven't looked at that, I'm afraid. G-Man forgets his roots, it seems. Is my information connected to Greece? Yes, there are Greek connections. There's probably a big history linking in with Greece in all of this as well. There's already links in from Saturnalia into Greek mythology. So yes, I think Greece is going to be a big part of this, but I haven't found lots of major connections to Greece. There's Greek references to mythology throughout the research. So yeah, I do think it's going to be important historically with potentially the origin in this. Look after yourself. Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you very much, Billy. Clee. I don't mind wondering. I don't. Oh, you're having a. Oh, it's to me. I don't mind moderating if you want. No, I don't want any moderators. Thank you very much for offering. But no, I had that before, and the trouble is that allows people to limit and infiltrate and change things. So I can do it myself. It's fine. Thank you very much for offering, though. I do realize, do appreciate it. He was and is very heavily targeted. My ancestors left your goofy island over 300 years ago. Why don't you stand for Prime Minister in next election? Look, there is no democracy It's all false, all lies. Until you get rid of this system, doesn't matter what you do in that regard. Okay, it's all a lie. They've already decided who's in positions well in advance, everybody, and how long they're going to be. Even Nadine Dorries confirmed that, and she's worked within government. Picking up Garrett on Thursday and bringing her to Kent. Do you want picking up to Gary? No, it's very kind of you, Vanessa. No, I'm okay. I need to keep doing what I'm doing. It is uncomfortable, but I've just keep doing this. It's so important what I'm doing. I can't risk, or I need to limit the risks, put it that way. What if the company dissolved? Are the directors still part of the fraud? Well, yeah, because they were still committing conspiracy to commit the fraud in the first place, aren't they? You know, if you look at them as an individual rather than a company, a lot of people say, well, yeah, you create a company and it protects you from anything. Well, no, it doesn't protect you, because if you're running that company and you've made the decision to do whatever with that company, whether you dissolve that company or not, the people can come after you as a human being. And that's what's going to be happening if I have my way. Those that are instrumental in allowing this international government fraud need to face the consequences. Have you looked into Cloud's House, also linked to the McCanns? No, I haven't. Thank you. Cloud's House? No, I've never heard of that. Cloud's House? Gary, do you need anything we can help you with? Don't worry about me. Worry about the children and yourself. You need to follow the strategy. I'm okay at the moment. I can survive. I'm just very uncomfortable and cold. I'm often wet with the rain and what have you, and muddy. However, I can survive. Is Tucker CIA? I don't know. He went for a job, didn't he, at the CIA? That's what I read in my research, but I don't know. But he's massively, his father supposedly died this year. The company that his father links to was incorporated with the exact same company as Exporn Manor Freehold Limited. That's the company that I was removed from for refusing to file the forged bank documents. That's Tucker Carlson's father, supposedly died this year. And now when you go in through there, I've now found loads of other connections via that. So, yeah. Between them, they have 10 million. Yes, please, Gary. Between them, they have 10 million followers. Yeah, I'll do a live on it. I can do that. Actually, since we've got 150 people on here, I'll do it tomorrow. What day? Yeah, should be able to do it tomorrow at, should we say, oh no, it's New Year's Eve. I won't do it tomorrow. Let's get New Year's Eve out of the way, because there won't be probably many people into it. So I could do it on the 1st, but that's New Year's Day. People won't want to. I'll leave it for now. I'll just put an advertisement on my TikTok. If you're not on my TikTok, it's Gary, the Truth Sets Us Free. They removed my main TikTok account, my main TikTok account a few days ago, where I had about 25,000 people. I urge you all, please go on my TikTok, build the numbers back up so I've got an audience on there. It's Gary, the Truth Sets Us Free. That's on my TikTok, because I do put the evidence on there as well. Who is worse for country, Sadiq Khan or Tommy Robinson? Both of them. They're both implicated in the international fraud. They're all actually linked to the same thing, working together. So they all need to go. I knew she wasn't about 6 months ago. Oh, I'm talking to someone else there. Still here. CYM Corporation is horrible. Yeah, it's CYM. Now, I've got the evidence somewhere, but they tried removing CYM from company and corporation documents when they realised it was being linked to the blood of the children. I need to do a bit more work around that, but how can we assist you in saving these children? Boycotts. Yeah, absolutely. Boycotts. Obviously, the obvious one is use cash all of the time. You need to be sending the evidence once you have it to MPs, councillors. You need to be submitting police reports. Continuously submit some, I was going to say harass the police, but continuously submitting police reports, okay? But not 999, okay? Not emergency number. But absolutely, you should all be now contacting and sending the evidence to your gas, electricity, and water suppliers. They are all implicated, very likely poisoning you through them. So you need to be exposing them and sending it to them. You could also be holding meetings and getting meeting. And I've got an email actually. I do need to respond to the email, so I will be hopefully very soon. But what I want to do is send the document out at the same time. You see, so that's why I haven't responded to any emails at the moment. So please be patient with me. Please forgive me for not emailing you back already, but I will be. I just want to get this document to a point where I want to send it out. But you could be holding meetings and getting me there on a remote screen so I can talk about the evidence and answer any questions. We can go through parts of the document. You really need to be getting some community engagement together surrounding this, not just relying on social media in case the whole system collapses. You need to have some sort of support network in relation to this fraud more locally to you. Have you been in touch with Graham Moore? Yeah, unfortunately, he's compromised by the fraud. I had somebody that was a contact of his, that was in contact with his girlfriend. They basically turned on that person for being in contact with me. I then did a research for Graham Moore, and one of his companies dissolved as I was exposing the fraud. So don't trust a word he's saying. Anybody that's not talking about the company's house fraud, I would suggest you don't trust them. That's how big this is. They have positioned many people, and a lot of the stuff they're saying will be a distraction, a deception, misinformation to send you down the wrong path. It's all about this company's fraud, house fraud. 100%, everybody. There is absolute certainty that this is the cause of most of the world's problems. And if you do not focus on this, then this will continue. And you will have a group of very sinister individuals taking full control of the world, enslaving you all, sacrificing children, torturing children, murdering them, and very likely, it seems, ending all of creation. Whether that be deliberately or accidentally, through artificial intelligence, through a mistake at CERN, through technology they're trying to build. Look at the fact that they are still trying to build a Large Hadron Collider 3 times bigger than the one that's there now under the Future Circular Collider program. It's absolute insanity. And there's not going to be any good reason for it because we've linked it to evil. It's linked to the crimes against children. It's linked to cults. It's not going to be good. They have a whole system in place, including Graham Moore is linked to it, of a criminal financial system, which goes against moral conscience. Therefore, it doesn't coincide with the creator and creation, because moral conscience came from the creator, where you all need to be treating everybody how you want to be treated in a rational state of mind. In other words, you don't steal from other people, you don't hurt them, you don't offend them, you do not commit crime against them, fraud. The whole system has been inverted against that. It's pure evil, everybody, according to all of the research. I meant with all the companies because lots of Greek real estate grabbed from the funds there is now under British law. We have to save the children. I haven't seen many Greek companies. I've got to be honest with you. I haven't specifically searched, but they're going to be there. They're going to be there. Probably sitting there in his. There's some interesting people here. Gary, plant some herbs and fruits. There's no point because I need to keep moving all the time, unfortunately. DK100, I'm not British, so yes, please, Gary. That was me. Sorry, I don't know what you're saying that about. Do you think Nick Fuentes is a Fed? I don't know. I haven't researched him. Nick Fuentes. G-Man, is this true? His partner's probably there's some obviously very sad people on here, isn't there? Any thoughts on Jekyll Island or any of these other evil islands? Well, we know the islands are going to be important in all of this. We know that Jeffrey Epstein had an island. We know that Richard Branson has an island not far away that links into all of this. I don't know. I haven't researched any other specific islands or anything like that. But the Bob Seeley, who's the MP for the Isle of Wight and is no longer an MP, set up an informal parliamentary group within government for UK islands, which will undoubtedly link to all islands around the world. And Ghislaine Maxwell was connected immediately to that informal parliamentary group. So, that tells you all you need to know. And you have mass murders of children on the Isle of Jersey under the Hot de la Quran side of things, where it looks like about 165 different children's body parts were found in a basement, buried in a basement on the Isle of Jersey. What if it's only a case of some not awake? I wonder if it's only a case of some not awake and awake, because not everyone can know everything. And I think we need to have patience and keep banging the drums at them. Yeah, absolutely. But, I think those that are awake now, they need to start rising up under a strategy to save those that aren't. I'm giving everybody everything they need, in terms of you have the evidence to empower you. You have a strategy on what you could be focusing on. And it's just arrest. There's other things within my strategy that you can see in my document. If you search strategies, there's loads of other stuff on there that people can do that can't actually be taking part in arrests. But, I think those that are innocent and awake now need to be trying to save everybody in all of this. Have you heard of the story of Edmund Fitzgerald? No. Sorry. Do you know what? It looks as though they've actually removed my ability to block. Oh no, hide user on this channel. Sorry, I'm just reading this. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Benjamin, sorry. Thank you so much for your comment. Really appreciate it. Yeah, someone mentioned the Queen here. So if you haven't heard of the Kamloops scandal, I've researched that, and that appears to be real. Back in 1960 something, I think, supposedly the Queen and Prince Philip were actually, I think they were either charged or convicted at a court in relation to the murder of 10 children in Canada, a place called Kamloops, where they went missing. Now, I've researched Kamloops, the organisation. It links back into the international government fraud. So I suspect I'm almost certain that was going to be a real incident. What will you do on New Year's Eve? Me personally, nothing. Research. Probably be researching this. I celebrate every day in terms of, and that's what we should do. You've been indoctrinated to basically count down everything. This is why birthdays are, again, an inversion against you and against creation, when really you should be celebrating every day. You should be celebrating nature and, I believe, the creator every day and appreciating it. But what they've done is make you select a day when you actually do that, or when you're free. Let's say Christmas Day, for example. They've chosen a day that you feel free as a mockery against you, it seems, when actually you're celebrating the sacrifice of children. And what they've done with birthdays is they hide that in. Obviously, you're celebrating supposedly the birth of Christ, for those of you really celebrating it for what you think it's meant to be about, Christmas, well, that then instills that you should celebrate your birthday. Well, what that does is that then makes you count down to your death. Okay, so you have a psychological countdown, which suppresses you subconsciously without you even knowing. Okay, because you're counting down to your death. And of course, it also then links in with their materialistic world. Okay, which they create all of these objects that you're all buying for Christmas and birthdays. Well, you don't need to show love to anybody by buying materialistic items. It's all been inverted. Some people believe that by buying things for people, that buys their love. Well, you can make people feel special through your love towards them, through your experiences with them, through your time with them. But it's been made to feel as though you show your appreciation of people through materialism. Well, that then buys into the system, doesn't it, that they're part of? All right, because what it does is it feeds financially into the system that they've created, which is about materialism, which will separate you from the creator and creation. And then Christmas, you've been taught to lie to your children, tell them never to lie, and then a few years later, you tell them you've been lying to them for years. It's a complete inversion. It's just it's just unreal. And of course, you then buy presents that they want, and if you don't buy those presents, then you feel guilty and they make you feel guilty because all of their friends are getting presents. So it indoctrinates you into a controlled system based on their satanic inverted agenda, which then makes you feel as though you can't break away from the norm, all right, and makes your children feel the same. And you lie to them and you tell them that they cannot lie to you and that you've been lying to them for years. It's just complete mockery. It really is. When really every day should be special. We should appreciate certainly nature more than we do, but they've set up a system that makes you appreciate materialism, which is not nature, of course. It's man-made objects separating you from the creator again. It's just completely inverted, everybody. It really is. I just want to say before I go on that sort of point. So I went to Scotland, funny enough, with my wife when we were together and her two friends, and they went out for a day trip, and I went and had a little drive, and they went to a waterfall, and I think they they stood under the waterfall. And at the end of this week's holiday, I said to all three of them, what's been your best bit? And they all said standing under the waterfall. Now these were people, not my wife, because my wife and I would often get in waterfalls and stuff like that. But the two others, that was something they'd never done in their life. And normally, they would have said being by the pool or doing something, on some sort of luxurious holiday potentially. And there they were saying, well, the best bit was actually being with nature and standing under a waterfall. And it is so true. In my life, the most fulfilling time I've ever had is living in a van and camping up by the side of a lake or on the top of a mountain and waking up to a sunrise. And nothing can beat that in my mind. No amount of money. It's so important that we all get back to that appreciation. And a lot of it's about coming out of your comfort zone. As soon as you come out of your comfort zone, you will realize that you're fulfilled more, because when you go back to whatever that luxurious side of things you've been living in, you then appreciate it so much more, and it makes you feel alive. Whether that's going under a waterfall, swimming in a lake, kayaking, getting cold, doing rock climbing, whatever, you just appreciate things so much more. Particularly, I believe, if it's related to nature and creation. Anyway, I'm going to go. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for listening. And I cannot emphasize how I think it's all going to be coming to an end one way or another. Don't quite know how. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next, but I get the feeling it's something I need to do to end all of this. So hopefully that will happen sometime soon once I get my head around all of this. But at the moment, I need to keep just building the evidence, exposing, getting it out there, so I know this can't go away, so that this will change everything forever. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.